AC Galactic Soul, the Honorable Brother, the Revolutionary yourself, Darius Lockhart, and I'm here to tell you to watch Powerbombshells every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. That's right, every Sunday at 1 p.m., and that's on time, every time, because when we stand together, what time is it? That's right, it's nation time.
Welcome to Powerbombshells episode 154. We are 3 years old, folks. Ooh. I am Mel. That is Sam. And we are just two broads talking about the pro wrestling we are watching. And holy crap, this is our 3-year anniversary.
I know. We made it.
It was Thursday, technically. But
yes. But we waited to celebrate with you guys this weekend.
Correct. That's right. So happy birthday to us, and thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. And
definitely. Thank you.
Thank you
for if you've been here since you've been here all 3 years, or you just came last week, or you've been in and out over the last 3 years. Any time that you've spent with us, we truly appreciate. Whether you're in the chat or watching the replay, we definitely appreciate all of your support.
Definitely. And you guys talking to us during the week and just wanting to have us around for 3 years is really cool. This is really fun. And I've done this stuff for a long time, and it's like, things pod fade a lot. So it's really fun that we've been able to continue having our fun and our positive space to talk about wrestling without all of the BS and, some BS, but important BS when it's BS.
Yes. We try to find a nice medium for covering the important topics, but also covering fun things as well. And we appreciate you giving us the space to do that. And for, like Mel said, talking to us, even like outside of this space on Sundays, we really appreciate, enjoy interacting with you guys throughout the week. And when you send us stuff, because, we've been talking about it, that's a really cool thing. And we really appreciate that. And we appreciate that you even want to hear our opinions.
Yeah, right.
Because listen, there's a lot of opinions in the wrestling space, and we appreciate that you allow us, even when we are having streamers and hats and birthday glasses, that you take those opinions seriously.
Correct. Yeah. It is a little weird when we're like this, when we do our dress. I was like, now take my wrestling opinion seriously, but also it's very wrestling-y, so it kind of works.
At least today we were talking about happy, positive things, so it'll work out, and we appreciate all the anniversary wishes in the comments. That means a lot to us. And Daza said that his guess was that you were going to wearing a hat with a 3 on it.
No, 3's just the bombshells. If you can, let's see here. Let's tilt them. I got the bombshells.
So cute. On there. I love it. I should have made.
I only have 2 feathers that are, of course, that are blue and pink, so that match our color. So I kind of went.
I love it.
I modified one of our original party hats and upgraded it because I'm like, I'm a crafty girl.
She is a crafty girl. I was thinking about that, and she, these glasses actually are from Mel, because I think it was like after our first anniversary or maybe our second one, she was having a hard time. I think Bob found the party favors for us.
Yeah, it's because they don't sell them like they used to when we were kids, like where they even have hits or anything. So he had to go all over like Hades and back again, and was like, what? The H. And then he finally found these arcade ones, which is kind of fun. So
I
sent Sam, it was like for 4 people. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna send some of these.
She did, and I have because I have the the other 2 glasses. I just picked a color, and then there's these 2 little things in there that I guess are supposed to be hats, but I don't know how.
They are.
You're supposed to fold them together, but it was
fold them yourself and hook them, but they're really, really like.
It's
not great. Let's just.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was trying to hook it, and it was not working. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wear the glasses. I'm just going to go with that. And I have some streamers, and that was partially why we were a couple minutes late, is because prior to us going live, and before I even came into the room, Nikki was trying to help me adjust the streamers because we wanted to make sure that you could see them. So I had to adjust the camera, and then I didn't space them far enough apart. But I was like, you know what? This actually is very much Powerbombshells.
Oh yeah.
To work out. And I did have 3. I try to have 3 streamers, 1 for each year. So at least got that. So we're still in a celebratory mood, and we're trying to make it we're trying to make it celebratory with some streamers and hats and glasses, and so it's very DIY, which is pretty much what Power
I mean, that's
is.
our I was gonna say that's our MO, and we haven't, and it's working for us because we're still here. So
right, you're right about that.
Why?
And then
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. And also, Daza says that his birthday is in a few days, so happy early birthday.
Hey, we get to wish it to you live on the air. Happy birthday, Daza.
Happy birthday. And Daza said, to celebrate our birthdays, I'm going to enjoy awesome wrestling matches from the 80s promotions that were struggling, and Dave Meltzer can't stop me.
That comment, yeah, when you just, Daza called him a Debbie Downer this week, and I actually have a bad habit of when someone pulls it or when I do the actually thing, and someone does it to me, I'm like, okay, Dave, like. So when Daza was like, okay, Debbie Downer, I was like, that's when I had to send him the actually gift. So, I mean, he means well, and I know he's trying to like correct people's like histories and stuff, but like in the end, it's really, he's very much that meme.
Yeah, I get it. He's a historian, and that's how he views things. And so, and everybody else kind of views it in different, not everybody else, but many others view it through a different lens. And so
that's what makes it fun and rich. So I think that's kind of hilarious that, like, even I was saying in our Discord, I think that it's kind of funny that a whole section of Wrestling Social is committed to Dave's little quirks. I call him our crazy wrestling uncle. It's like all this, like,
that's fairly accurate.
I'm like, because we're always talking about the Office and the little bullshit that happens now, that especially now that there's video, and like Espresso makes cameos, the dog, and it's so much funnier, and it's so hilarious because bless Garrett, he is such a patient person, and listening to him sort of like guide the conversations.
Garrett is the perfect person to be in that position because of the patience that he has. Yeah. Because you have to have an amazing amount of, and I know they're friends, you know, obviously outside of it, so he knows how to not, I don't want to say deal with him, but he knows how to, you know, communicate with him, and he knows what he knows Dave's communication style, and he knows how to kind of guide him and track him, but letting him be himself at the same time. And so Garrett is really good at that. He's really good, and we've talked about it a million times. He's very good at putting podcast hosts together as well. Because he is the podcast whisperer, I believe, as Mel has called him. Because he put Mel and us together. Mel and I did not know each other until 3 weeks before we launched our podcast. Yep. And here we are, 154 episodes and 3 years later.
I know, it's crazy. And I feel like he was right. Like we
podcast for other people too.
Yeah. Yeah, like almost everyone on our network. It just like him going, I think these two people would complement each other. I think, and it just really does, because I love our network shows, and I love that like everyone gets along without being sassy to each other. I mean, there's a good group in especially in our Discord, now that we've kind of switched over to when we do our talking, and you can sort of parse it out in channels. But I feel like it's a group effort to keep that space, you know, toxic free, sort of like, because I mean Garrett is the dad of it all, but I mean you really have to, like, I've said this to people before, to like make him banhammer you have to work so hard. He is like the longest leash in the universe when it comes to people. He is like, I don't know. I'm like, if you get under Garrett's skin, or you do something that makes Garrett like kick you out of a thing, what are you doing with your life?
Facts.
You need to go check yourself into therapy and have a conversation about you and yourself. Because if you get that guy's, I just don't. He's got the patience.
Daza says you can enjoy a movie that wasn't a box office success. The same goes for a wrestling match.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, I have plenty of Pitch Perfect is one of my absolute favorite, just trash, fun movies. And that's not an award-winning film. It's silly fun.
Like, right, exactly.
Bring it on with singing.
Nikki had guessed, we'll go back real quick. Nikki had guessed that you would be wearing a party hat, and she was correct. And then Daza said that your hat looks like Lola in the Barry Manilow song.
Yeah,
for Copacabana.
Yep.
And now I'm probably gonna have this song. If I get that song stuck in my head for the rest of the day, I'm gonna know who to blame now.
It'll happen.
It happens all the time.
I have a friend who likes to sing it at karaoke here and again. And then the whole rest of the week, that's the song that's stuck in my head.
That song.
He's always like, I'm like, I don't think I know that song. And he's like, you always think you don't know it until you're actually singing it. And then you realize
and then you're like, wow, how did I learn the entire lyrics to Copacabana by Barry Manilow?
Why can't I remember where I put my keys this morning, but I can remember the lyrics to Copacabana?
Now you just hear that one little, and that's the thing with that song. You can hear just the music and your brain starts yelling the lyrics at you. And then you yell the lyrics. Your brain yells the lyrics at you for like a week. Nikki said that The Rock taught her. Speaking of The Rock. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, jeez.
No, I didn't actually. Last night was an adventure because my plan was obviously collision coverage.
That's right, because Elimination Chamber was last night.
Right. And I was the Elimination Chamber, the only match I cared about, as I've said many times, is Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn in a unsanctioned match. And so that was like, once Collision's over, if Peacock will because sometimes Peacock won't replay stuff or it won't let you rewind stuff. So I was like, well, as soon as Peacock lets me, I'm going to go back and watch this match. That's all I care about. I'll read Wrestling Inc.'s coverage for the rest of it. That's not what happened. Earlier last week, Wrestling Inc. switched over its back end stuff. And last night was the first time that I actually had to deal with it. And the other woman who does live coverage for Wrestling Inc., she does the WWE stuff, but she does Dynamite as well. So she does a lot of live coverage. She has already been practicing it through the week. So she was kind of giving me so I came in a little bit early so she could kind of help me go over some stuff. And then she was like, just a heads up, because Elimination Chamber started before Collision did. She's like, just a heads up, it's being a little glitchy. I was like, okay, cool. Well, it ended up being super glitchy. My slides were coming in out of order. So if you were reading my live coverage, the slides were happening out of order from how they actually happen on the show. Then there's a thing where you just add a slide. Throughout the night, the add slide button would just stop working. So I was just like, so I had to we already type our stuff in my stuff in Google Docs anyway, because I don't want anything to disappear, or if there's some kind of a technical issue like last night, it's all in my notes and all I have to do is copy and paste it and it's fine. So I was just keeping up with my notes, but it kept making me get behind. And then certain matches were making me get behind because they were doing all of the things. They opened with FTR last night and I was like, hell yeah, I don't have to sit through a 30-minute FTR main event. Nope, just a 30-minute opening match. Which, it was cool the way it happened, but still, I was just so I was super stressed out all night. A poor editor is trying to help me and is watching Elimination Chamber so that they can pull the stories that they need to. So he's pulled in a million different directions. My managing editor was trying to get involved, trying to help us out, and it was just a mess. And so finally, my Collision coverage didn't get done until 11. It was 11 o'clock before I finished Collision. That's how behind I got with everything and trying to fix stuff and having to. So I finally get it all. And then I'm filling in my editor because he's like, I didn't see anything from Collision. So I was like, okay, well, they did this match. They've announced these two matches for Revolution. They announced, 0 Hour. And he was like, well, what happened with the TNT title? Did Daniel retain? And I was like, yes. And then I was like, wait a minute, he retained, but only because it ended up being it ended up being a non-finish, and so I had to fill him in on all that,
Right.
and I had to get support involved, and so I didn't think support was going to answer me as fast as they did. So I did not get done until 1:00 this morning.
You are a better woman than I, Sam.
And so I was like, okay, cool. So I've seen pieces from last night. Like I know what happened with The Rock and John Cena to an extent. However, I purposely didn't watch any clips of it because it's not technically real time because it already happened, but I'm going to watch the pay-per-view and watch it play out that way instead of watching or reading what happened. So I know a little bit of what happened. Somehow, I do not know who won Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Luckily, knock on wood, that match has not been spoiled for me in any way.
That's awesome. So, I love when that happens. I love when I'm like,
it stays that way.
Yeah,
we shall see. And
I do between those raindrops, man, you can do
it. Right, because I was in the chat during the women's match. I do know that Jade came back, and I know what she did, and I know who won that. And then I know who won the next match was a tag team match. It was Trish Stratus and Tiffany Stratton versus Nia and Candace. That was the very obvious winner anyway. So I knew that, but that's it. And then I knew what happened. And then I know a little bit of what happened with The Rock, John Cena, and Cody Rhodes.
All I did was see essentially the headline of what happened with John Cena and The Rock. I don't know much about it. I just saw because it was all over wrestling Twitter this morning. It was like, oh my God, it's finally happened.
Yeah, I wish that I had. And that's what I told Nikki. I was like, if Collision had ended the way it was and we just turned on the Rumble afterwards, I was like, we would have watched it play out in real time.
Yeah.
But the universe had other plans for us. And so... and I was already going to have to watch it, but now I have to make sure I get caught up because Tuesday night I'm going to fill in for Salty Scott over at the Wrap. Keela Cash, who is no longer an honorary broad. She is a broad.
An official part of the broad family.
Yes.
She is a broad.
So she has, we've had to use a lot of the free word rule with her quite a few times. She was able to help me out a lot when I was recovering from surgery last year. And so I get to return the favor a little bit this week. I'm going to fill in for Salty Scott. And so that episode we film Tuesday night and it'll drop Wednesday morning on the Fight Game Media Network. So definitely make sure that you check that out. And so shout out to Keela and to Scott. And so I'm glad. So I definitely have to make sure that I get that in so that I know what I'm talking about, because Keela knows her stuff. And so I can't go in there I guess that's one of the perks to having to watch WWE again is now I can fill in. I can step in and be like, hey, I know what's happening.
Yeah, that's nice because those guys are fun. I don't watch WWE, but I like listening to them.
Yeah.
If I have a chance during the week, I'll check out their shows just because I like their perspectives. And
yeah, me too.
I know they're talking about wrestling I don't watch, but they're talking seriously about it. So it's
right.
It's again, I had friends who used to do it, and I'm not a comics person per se. I've watched a lot of the movies, but I didn't read many of the comics, but I'm into them. But I had these two friends that did a really great comic book podcast, and it was like, I got to listen to these two because I just love their perspective on things. It's like,
right.
I'm not reading these books, but I just like the way that they critique them and the way that they have the conversations, and their voices are good for engaging your brain. It's and I like the way that they are critical of things. I like to look at because I'm like, oh wow, I've never even thought to think of looking at those kinds of things.
Yeah, and they're really great about they're like us, kind of like how we approach AEW. WWE is something they really enjoy watching, but they have no issues being critical when they need to, and they will explain things in a different, especially for me as a person who does not, WWE is just not my style of wrestling anymore. It's not my preferred thing to watch, but they give a lot of really good perspective that's not always so jaded, I guess. Yeah. In the way that because I am typically very jaded when it comes to WWE. And so they're really great in the way that they talk about things. I really enjoy them. And Maria,
and they like each other too. So they're hilarious.
Yeah. They are hilarious. They are another great set of hosts that play well off of each other. Yes, Keela is awesome, and The Wrap is a fun show. So I'm really looking forward to get an opportunity to be on the show this week. Taza said, actually, Mel, Pitch Perfect took 115 million on a $16 million budget.
You know what's so funny about that, Daza, is who put us onto that when we were in Ireland was our friend listens to Kermode and Mayo. And so that's who put us on to, they're a BBC movie critic. There's a couple of BBC movie critics.
Oh, nice.
And they're great. You would love them. Like, they're the kind of thing that you could plug into and be like, oh, these guys are awesome. Like, when we were there, we were listening to them and they kept talking about how they couldn't help themselves. They kept going to that movie because they get free passes, obviously, because they're pretty well known. And I think it was Kermode was like, I just can't stop going to this movie. I don't know why. He's like, it's so addicting. It's so wholesomely addicting. I just can't. I'm like, yeah, he's right. So someone from your side of the pond was actually someone that we were listening to that got us into that. So
Daza said, okay, Mark Kermode is the top UK critic, and he's the only one I actually respect.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they really, really do. They're actually like a good movie. So many movie critics. Like, we have this guy locally, and it's like, if he doesn't like the genre, he doesn't like the movie. And it's like, that's that's anti-critiquing. You're literally giving me your opinion, even though you're calling your show critically speaking, dude. You're like, he admits openly, he's like, I don't like horror, but here's my opinion on this. I'm like, It's like, okay, I don't
that's
like
WWE. But, you know,
WWE.
to be fair, that's probably how people feel about me when I talk about WWE.
Well,
I
that's what
don't
I
like
was just saying.
WWE.
I don't like WWE.
I don't like WWE, but here's my opinion since I have to watch it twice a week.
But you're not being an arsehole about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're trying to look objectively at it from a journalistic point of view. You're trying to say, okay, I know of all kinds of stuff about wrestling. Does this meet X criteria and Y criteria? And how's this playing out? And what are the stories and whatever? You're not like, you're critiquing it. You're not like, you enjoy the wrestling you watch. You also report on it, but you enjoy New Japan. You like, we're excited about the New Japan Cup. Like, that's exciting.
Yeah.
The Royal Rumble is like, wow, way to like give somebody...
Well, I like the story with The Rock. I have been critical of it because it's bizarre. I mean, I guess it plays out, and I'll get to technically see how it plays out. But leading up to it was terrible stuff. I hated it. And so it'll be interesting to see actually how it plays out. I mean, obviously I now kind of know the ending, at least of this portion of the story, but I don't know quite how it played out, which I will get to Dawes' question in a second because he asked a question about those. But he did say that he'll send you a clip of him talking about an experience with the producer of the Titanic that changed his outlook on reviewing films. It's awesome.
Sweet. I've seen that you wrote. I didn't realize they had written books, so those are going to be on my library list coming up when I finish I'm down a medicine, I'm doing like neuroscience. I'm like reading about surgery right now, and I've got like reading about neurology of vision coming up. That I asked I had like Weird Out my doctor. Actually, she was excited, but I was like, so like, what book would you recommend that I read about the stuff that's going on with me? Because it helps. Knowledge is like my best. It's my only weapon a lot of the time.
Yeah,
so
knowledge is power.
So I mean, it was economics for a while there, and then I've switched over to this because it's really interesting. And this guy that wrote this book is such a nerd about his job. I love it. He's like, he loves being a surgeon. He like went all around the world to like compile the entire history of it. I'm like, this guy is such a nerd. I love this nerd.
It's perfect.
You know, you don't have
you
to
kind of want your surgeon to be a nerd.
Oh my God, totally.
About what he does.
Exactly. My brain surgeon, the big cheese brain surgeon, he was very excited when he was explaining it to me. And I'm like, yes, this is the guy I want.
Right. Yeah.
It's like he really cares about his job and wants to do a good job at it.
Right. Hi, Colin. And actually, thank you for my very early birthday. It is in November, but today is Powerbombshells' third birthday. It's our 30th. Well, technically Thursday was our third anniversary, but we are celebrating today. And so Mel had sent me these a couple of, either, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before.
I think it was our first year.
I think it was our first year. Bob found some video game birthday thing, decorations, and so Mel sent
the
me
only ones in like
so,
southern Michigan.
And I forgot that I don't think I wore them last year, but I have them. They've been sitting in the same spot on my shelf since Mel sent them to me. So I knew where they were at all times. And then last year, I think I forgot to use them. And so the other day I was like, I should still have that box on my bookcase, and I did, and so I'm wearing them. And Mel, the hat that Mel has fashioned, the hat portion, Mel also sent me from the same thing, but I couldn't get it to stick together. But Mel over here, because she's extremely crafty, she put our little Powerbombshells pog on it, and then she put Copacabana feathers on them to match. And so that is thank you. And
thank you very much.
Where that
we
came
appreciate
from.
having you here.
And I appreciate Fernando not telling me who won between KO and Sammy. I'm glad I got that out. I appreciate that. The franchise did sell his soul. So Daza asked, I don't watch angles on TV now, so can I ask, last night, was The Rock trying to seduce Cody and only his advances were spurned? He set Cena upon them. I think that's how it played out. But yes, he's been trying to seduce Cody for the last couple of weeks. Like last week I mentioned, like he told him, I want your soul, then like caressed his face. And it was very awkward. And people were like, they're going to have sex. Like, this is where this is going. Like, I think that's where The Rock is going with this. It was very weird how this whole thing played out. And as I mentioned last week, The Rock was just talking in circles and like was not getting to the point. And he went out there clearly with no script. I don't think Cody really knew where it was going. Cody looked very confused last week, even Friday night. And so this week, Cody's in the ring and The Rock pops up on the Titantron. So he's not even there, but he's like, I got you a gift. And out on the stage was this big ass red truck that had Cody Rhodes' logo on the hood. And on the side of the door had Cody's symbol, the one that's tattooed on his neck, a giant one on this truck. And he's like, the
tattoo that ended the world.
Right.
And solved racism.
So he's like, look, I can give you all of these things. And then he's like, of course, as he did the week before, he was invoking Dusty Rhodes. He's invoking his own father. Our fathers are in heaven. They're watching us. They're waiting for us to carry on just carry on the business. All these things because he knows, the one thing to get to Cody is obviously invoking his father.
Of course.
So then he has a weight belt that has Dusty Rhodes' death date on it.
Oh, good Lord.
I was like, what is happening? Because I recognized the date, but it didn't register. And Nikki was like, that's his death date. Because that was his death date.
They really are trying to be the longest running winner of the worst wrestling tactic of the year in the Wrestling Observer best of worst of issue. I think it goes back. I actually went and looked once because I was curious. And it goes back to like 92 where they've had like the worst wrestling tactic or something. Like they've won almost every year for the last like 25 years or some silly thing. Everything from On Heart to
I'm pretty sure it was tweeted a little bit later, but I saw Dustin Rhodes tweet the red emoji with the cursing across it, and I assume it's because he saw what happened, or he at least saw the weight belt. And I was like, I'm sure that did not go over well with him. But yeah, so he invoked his, and it was just real. And CM Punk talked to Cody backstage, and he's the one who's actually making sense of this. He's like, and he said, what does The Rock have to offer you that you don't already have and that you haven't already done? Like, I don't understand. Like, why are you even considering it? Because you already have everything and you don't need him. You're a success. You're the champion. You're married. You have a kid. Like, you have everything. Like, there's nothing. I don't understand why this is even happening. So we're like, finally, somebody is speaking.
So wait, who was talking some sense into Cody?
CM Punk was talking to Cody backstage.
Okay, when CM Punk is the voice of reason in the room, you are in a weird space.
Right. Exactly.
This is the weirdest timeline, even in wrestling.
It was.
That's wild.
So, yeah, and like, again, I haven't seen exactly how it has played out, so right. I can only, I'm sure, if you listen to the wrap this week, I'm sure I will.
Yes, definitely listen to please listen to the experts on the WWE, because as Sam and I have often said, is that's not for us. And
yeah,
if it's for you, that's awesome. Enjoy it. Like, we love wrestling. Love your wrestling.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too, that it's 15 years too late. And so we had kind of had this theory in our Slack that this was before The Rock started his stuff. We were like, when Cena and Cody, because obviously John Cena and Cody Rhodes, they're gonna have to face each other at some point. This is John Cena's last year. And so we were like, who would be the heel in that situation? Because obviously you have two massive baby faces. And so I was saying that I think Cena Cody would kind of play a tweener role where it's going to be as heel as he's possibly going to get. I wasn't expecting John Cena to go full heel in his final year, because I'm like, you've made it this far without becoming a heel. And they kind of joked about it. And I saw Jason, I think Baker is his last name. He's the guy who created all of Bray Wyatt's like masks and stuff. And he tweeted and said, Bray tried to tell us 5 years ago. And in that cinematic match he did with John Cena, there's that clip of them where John Cena is in the NWO black and white shirt and hat. And he was like, Bray tried to tell us. And so it was really funny to have that kind of a funny little callback, which obviously was not long-term storytelling, but works with the story here. But I feel like John Cena I know why they didn't, but I think John Cena should have turned a long time ago.
I guess the only thing I would say about it, and again from an outsider perspective, is that because John Cena is the ultimate face and has been for eons for that company, mm-hmm. and Cody is becoming essentially like the guy for that company,
right? It
does make a little bit of sense I know it's late, and I definitely agree. Like, you guys probably should have played that card a long time ago. But if you're gonna play it now, this is probably the best case scenario, because Cody beating the ultimate face, who's turned heel, now solidifies him as the ultimate face. Like, Cody's so cool, he made them like most face person in the history of WWE lose his mind. So,
and
now maybe I'm giving them more credit than they deserve for that, but if you're gonna do it,
I think maybe once I see how it actually played out and kind of see it in the context of what The Rock has been doing for the last few weeks, maybe I could say, because I saw some people saying that this is probably the most shocking heel turn since Hogan turned. Or maybe it was, at least, if it wasn't the most shocking, it was the most well done, because nobody saw it coming. Because John Cena's not really been around, obviously. And from like yesterday or last night, Sean Ross Sapp was saying that they were playing it really close to the vest. Even Triple H was only telling people who needed to know. Cody has known for several months that this is what was going to happen. And then he said that because Fightful runs down the card and the order of things are going to happen, and so they listed Cody and Cody and The Rock being the third thing that happened. But as they always say, subject to change. But that was the rundown they were given, because that was the rundown everybody was given, because most people within the company had no idea that was happening last night because they didn't want it getting out. And so I'm glad that they were able to keep a secret, because that is a huge, huge deal to have John Cena turn heel in his final year and turn heel against Cody, who, like you said, is their current babyface. He is the current John Cena as far as babyfaces go.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that they were able to keep that a secret. And so they did keep it really quiet. I don't know exactly how he plays into it, because I've tried to avoid it. Travis Scott was involved. Travis Scott is a rapper and he does the Raw theme. He was at the Netflix premiere. He's been, and they've brought him in before. And so he was involved in this angle last night with John Cena turning heel. And apparently that plan started back in mid-January, that he was going to be involved in a really big storyline. And like, so if you watch Vic said he was there for the buzz. Yeah, so
I was gonna actually. That was what I was thinking. Because Peacemaker 2 is coming out. Like, the next season of Peacemaker is coming out pretty soon, right? So
yes. Somebody said that last night. Instead of getting Homelander Cody, we were getting Peacemaker John Cena. That's what somebody said last night. And so Travis Scott is the one who came down with Jay during his entrance and was smoking not a cigarette.
Some cannabis.
Some cannabis as he's coming down the steps. And so, and like you could smell it in the thing. So that's apparently, so I don't know if he was last night as well. I assume so, but yes. And then apparently it came out today. I was reading, somebody had sent it from Fightful this morning. Apparently Travis Scott has been training at a wrestling school. So I'm guessing he's going to be involved somehow. I'm assuming at WrestleMania. Maybe we had Bad Bunny, who is probably the best celebrity wrestler of all time. And so maybe he's going to go one-on-one with Bad Bunny at some point. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't know how. It's very interesting that you have this. But then because I was going to say, it's very interesting that you have this huge storyline and involve Travis Scott of all people. But then somebody posted a picture of Hollywood Hogan with Dennis Rodman. So I guess maybe that's kind of the vibe they were going for, is having Travis Scott. I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see how this all plays out. And because The Rock has been adamant that he's not wrestling at WrestleMania. I assume he's going to be in John Cena's corner, is my guess, or he'll be the special guest referee, or he'll be involved somehow, is my guess. So we shall see how that all plays out. No, Cody did not sell his soul. John Cena did.
Yeah. It finally happened, kids. All these years, and take that, people who have said it'll never happen. It's wrestling.
Hey, I was one of those people. I didn't think, I was like, they've made it this far. I think had Vince still been involved in this company, no, it would not have happened. But I think maybe I would not even be surprised if Cena was like, you know what, this is my last year. I want to pick how I do things, and I'm ready to turn heel. Let's figure out a way to make this happen. I definitely could see it being, this whole thing being John Cena's idea.
Well, because of the way that Peacemaker is presented, I think that it's totally, like, it's realistic. Like, he could do it. He's good. Like, he's kind of like The Rock peaked at some point, and he's having issues, and he yelled it back at socials, which will never get you any. You'll never make friends blaming everyone else for your problems.
Right.
Like, I think that John Cena is kind of, because he's more recent than The Rock, so I just feel like he's a better. Yeah.
Well, and The Rock is very much,
and it is his last year.
We talked about it last week about how The Rock has not evolved his character at all.
He's just played out.
His character is played out. He's stuck in the 90s. He never really evolved beyond that. So he comes off as very outdated. And you and I have talked about how a lot of younger fans, or the current fan base, know The Rock as Dwayne Johnson, the actor, not as The Rock, the wrestler, where they know Cody, they watch Cody, they know John Cena. as both an actor but John Cena has pretty much stayed, like, he's evolved. Clearly, we went from word life to like the current, never give up, and this is my last year type of thing. So, we have
he's reinvented himself a few times, and I mean, when we were at WrestleMania 35, he actually he went back to rapping, and like and it was so funny because I was like, oh, hey, so
right.
I mean, that's how I got to see him, was in that character. So it was like the Freakonomics or whatever he does. Thugonomics. I always get it wrong. I'm like, no, that's a different person. But
so Fernando says that he believes that Cena turning heel was a bigger deal than Hogan turning heel.
Cool.
I can see maybe that argument being made.
For modern generations, Hogan turning doesn't mean anything to them. That's like you telling me that like Casablanca was the biggest movie at one time. It's like, okay, well, it's not 1958 or whatever. So
right. Benkin he's
brass knuckles, huh?
Yeah.
Cold. And then that's cold-blooded Benkin.
To watch. Transferring Heat says WWE had an all-timer PLE last night. Big moments, really good matches, returns, etc. I want to give flowers to Liv Morgan. She was incredible. Yeah, I heard that she was just out there. I think it was Keela who said she was out there doing stuff for the love of the game.
Nice.
So
good for her.
Yeah. Jermaine says, so do you have John Cena win the title, then drop it later in the year, which would probably be his last match? I mean, that seems more and more likely. I wasn't sure because as John Cena's records began climbing, I assumed he would surpass Ric Flair. I assumed that's where they were going, and I think they were going for that. But then they started doing it with Charlotte, and Charlotte, I believe, is currently sitting at 14, so she needs 3 more to surpass her father. John Cena needs 1 more to do that. So obviously, I'm pretty sure Charlotte is beating Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania, and so that will give her 15. So I was like, do they stop Cena at 16, not give him any more, let Charlotte be the one? And I believe Randy Orton is also one championship away from tying or surpassing Ric Flair as well, which is an interesting story, given the Evolution faction back in the day. Randy was part of that, so it'd be really interesting if Randy was the one. So I mean, maybe at this point they do. I mean, they could do all 3. They could have Charlotte be the only woman to do that, and to surpass her father obviously would be a huge deal. But I could see maybe that is what they're doing. Maybe they have finally decided, you know what, John Cena has been our guy for 15 years. He has helped us. He's been our top guy for a really long time. He's done, which was one of the funny things they mentioned last night. He's done like the most Make-A-Wishes for any wrestler ever. Anyone, and then he did one apparently last night. And then he turns heel at the end of the show. Of course he did. And so, but yeah, so I could see, like, I think John Cena is somebody who does, I would say he deserves it. I could see him being the one to break the record. Perhaps then depending on Randy Orton's health, maybe they give him one more run, or maybe they stop him where he's at. And then maybe it just comes down, Charlotte does it on the women's side. And then maybe it is John Cena who wins it. And then maybe he does, like Jermaine says, drop it in his last match and puts over somebody before he goes out, which would be really interesting to see who that person is, when you've got, like, because the people who are in the main event scene are people like Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Roman Reigns. Like, so you have really big names already in that spot. So I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that I would be like, yeah, that's the person we need to, that should be put over on the way out, because obviously Cody's already a huge star. It sure as hell shouldn't be Logan Paul. So, I would have to say, yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out, Jermaine. I could definitely see that being the thing here. And then Daza says, just hope The Rock doesn't try to overshadow Cena by being his boss, because I'm fascinated as what Cena would do as a heel. Yeah, I would agree with that. I want John Cena as a heel to fully embody that and like just be just to be a heel without. I mean, I guess he needs The Rock's guidance technically, like that's how we got here. But I would like to see him kind of, because I don't think The Rock is gonna. John Cena sounds like he'll be there pretty often, as maybe past WrestleMania. But I don't know how often The Rock will be there. So we may get to see some of that influence with The Rock not being there. And then Vinkin is about to share a thought.
I love that.
I see it first of all.
I like first of all, I like when that step pops up. And thank you.
We have
Kenny.
some thoughts.
Thank you.
That to be a heel that doesn't run away. That would be nice.
That'd be nice.
I don't want to see chicken shit heel John Cena.
Yeah, no, he should really own it. He needs to have a John Cena. If you finally did this after all this time, I would think that go for it. Really, sink your teeth and let the guy
literally about to say sink your teeth into it.
It seems so they've done it. They pulled the trigger. Let's go.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Vinkin says we've done that more than enough. So yeah.
It's WWE. WWE gonna WWE.
Vinkin says start. Poor R-Truth. What does he do to deserve this? It's funny that you mentioned R-Truth because so Cody gets to SmackDown Friday night and they're like, Cody has, The Rock has a personal dressing room for you. And I was like, doesn't Cody already have a personal dressing room and his own bus? so we get to see the room in the next segment. And it's like this room with a wall that's just covered in wine bottles all the way down.
Wow.
So many. They're
probably bottles.
50. Oh, yeah. So then there's this couch and R-Truth is sitting on it and is talking to Cody and Cody is like, how did you get in here? So it's funny that Vinkin says to start with R-Truth because he was just in the locker room that was meant for Cody. And I guess that is a good way to establish a heel is to have them go after somebody who is so beloved. And I don't think there's anyone more beloved in WWE than R-Truth.
Yeah.
That guy, everybody loves that guy. That's how The Miz turned heel last year. He turned on R-Truth, except for R-Truth thought he was just mad and didn't mean it. And he was still trying to be his friend because he's like, oh, you were just mad. You didn't mean it. And Miz was like, no, I don't, and was trying to explain to him. And he's like, it's fine. We're cool. He just truly played it off. And yes, R-Truth does idolize John Cena. He's been doing his moves. He just did in a match that he did with, was it Carmelo Hayes that he just wrestled? And he did the STF in it. Oh. And he was trying to do I think he was going for the attitude adjustment or something. So he's been doing John Cena's
That's
moves.
Hilarious.
Fernando says the R-Truth gimmick is so old for him. Fair enough.
I get
That's
it.
all I will say about that. No, I'm just kidding.
I like him. I like Ron. It's Ron Simmons or whatever.
No, that's the.
Or am I thinking of somebody else?
Yes, okay. You are thinking Ron Simmons is
he's the one.
And he's damn.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, no. But I do like R-Truth. I just sorry about that.
And he's from Charlotte, so that
nice.
And it's funny because
it's just the last time I saw him, he was doing that 24/7 belt thing, and
and he made it
kind of where I left off.
Yeah, no, he
did the best he could with a really bad booking situation.
Yeah,
I mean,
he has, and he and Miz were Awesome Truth. They were tag team champions for a little bit last year. Way too long.
Hearing about that.
Then R-Truth has just kind of been doing some single stuff. He mostly is just there doing his gimmick because unfortunately, that's what they see him as. They don't see him as anything beyond that, which is unfortunate because R-Truth is a really good wrestler and he was, it would be interesting to see what would have happened if that's what I was just about to say. Fernando says on this serious R-Truth, who's the former NWA champion and TNA, right? And so because my introduction to him was when he was K-Quick in WCW, and so that's how I've seen him. And I did see some of his TNA run, and a lot of people, and you could see that he really is a really good wrestler, and it's kind of, he was given what he was given and he has run with it and he's been incredible as a comedic wrestler. But then you wonder, had Vince not done what he did and strapped him with this character, what could R-Truth have done in wrestling? would he have been as big as he is and beloved as he is? Like, how would that, what would that have looked like if R-Truth was the serious wrestler that we saw in TNA for his career versus what we know him as, as a comedic wrestler. So he's definitely one of those big what if stories, I think. But I think that, given what he was given, he has ran with it. He surpassed probably any expectations they ever had. He's made a ton of money with it, I hope. And he seems to be really happy. And so, but yeah, sometimes, and I'm sure sometimes he does wonder, like, what would have happened if, but that doesn't, unfortunately, you can say what if, but it doesn't, change.
Well, you can't know.
You can never, right. And so, but he's somebody that sometimes I often wonder, like, if they had gone a different direction with him, like, what would it have been like? And again, like you said, we'll never know. But yeah, so I could see John Cena, that would definitely cement him as a heel if he goes after R-Truth first. I will probably be very sad about it. It makes sense, but I will be sad.
He's got to establish himself as a heel now, so.
Yeah, Fernando's, he probably.
If only.
You probably are right with that. Probably
they didn't even they didn't give Kofi enough time even. They kind of cut him off
they sure did.
It didn't last long at all. It was unfortunate that his run was so short.
It was. I mean, I'm grateful that we got it.
Me too, because it was a great match.
Kofi Mania will always be one of my favorite things that ever happened in wrestling, but it was too short.
Yep. And Bryan Danielson that was such a great match. It was so much fun. So
yeah.
It's really, I genuinely enjoyed that match and felt good about it. And I was like, oh, please let him have a run for, that many months? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Vince. Oh, Vince.
Yes. Let me tell you, so apparently they were telling me that Triple H is back in the weeds for SmackDown. And if these are the weeds that we are in on Friday, I was like, please bury him under the weeds, because
maybe the weeds will get him.
SmackDown was just like, we were all like trying to find, like, what are we going to love about this? Because we were like, can we have 6 hates? Because this show is so disappointing. But I got to love the Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens segment that they did. And so it'll be interesting. Maria says Cody taking out R-Truth would have been Stone Cold bidding up poor JR.
Wow, that was a moment.
It's okay to have differing opinions, but please keep your comments. Like, don't be rude to our guests, please. I'll leave it in here for now, but just relax a little bit.
You don't need to call people out by name. It's fine. People are entitled to their opinions.
Just so. But yeah, so I did not plan to spend this long talking about WWE, but clearly that John Cena heel turn was a really big deal.
Well, that is a big deal. It's a big wrestling deal.
It's a huge story. David, unfortunately, I think, he said that he hopes that Bianca and Jade don't fight each other. I think it's going to be Jade and Naomi, obviously. But depending on, my friend is still convinced that Bianca set Naomi up and that it was Bianca who orchestrated Jade's attack, and she knew Naomi was going to fall for it. And then Bianca gets her Wrestlemania spot because she knew Jade would come back and take care of Naomi for her, and that allowed her to get to Wrestlemania. So that is a plausible theory. Depends on if if Bianca is in fact the one who is actually the mastermind, then yeah, we could. Okay, well, bye. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for
pushing up our algorithm. We appreciate that. Jermaine says, when I see R-Truth as WWE, could be the same thing for Harley Cameron and AEW because they both have a similar gimmick. Right. I can see that. They are very similar as far as their comedic timing. They can both wrestle, which I think in comedic wrestling gets lost a lot.
Is he a ventriloquist though? No, I'm kidding. No,
yes.
There's
she
room
can rap and she can sing. So yes, now you go. She's a ventriloquist. What can you do?
Well, like even AEW is building a match like that with Big Justice and Orange Cassidy and Jay Briscoe and all that. That's gonna kind of have a bunch of comedy stuff to it. I saw that and I was like, I'm in. That's my thing. I like Yano is one of my favorite freaking wrestlers. He's like, and that actually comes, there's like British wrestling in that, because like you had people like Vic Faulkner and Johnny Saint that did sort of silly, but like Pete Dunne used to do that kind of thing with those guys in Progress. Like, there's the show should have a variety. Like, there's room for both, and I like that. I like it.
Wrestling is highly underrated because you do have to do both. Like, you have to be solid in the ring so people take you seriously, but you also have to make people laugh, and you have to, keep them entertained in a way that a non-comedic wrestler has to do. And so I feel like comedic wrestling is one of the most underappreciated type of wrestling out there.
It takes a lot. It takes art and it takes creativity and athleticism. Like it's really a combination of so many different things that I feel like I'm like, I get it. It's your opinion. To me, like, I like having those featured match, silly, weird. I'm like, happy to have a Yano sighting or an Orange Cassidy and Jay Briscoe like fiasco.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not thrilled.
I know.
They're doing another
Costco guys.
They're doing another Costco guys match. I get it. I know what it's for. However, I mean, I think I feel like Orange Cassidy should be doing other things, but in this storyline, like, he lost the match with Takeshita. He's out of the title picture for now. So having him and Mark Briscoe conglomerate.
Yeah, I like them together. They're a fun
I think
team.
it'll be fun. And to do it with Johnny TV and MXM Collection, like, it's perfect for them because of the type of wrestlers and characters that they are. I think that it fits to have them. It's just interesting that it's Johnny TV just because he hasn't been around on AEW very often, and he's not been on ROH recently either. I don't know if he's been taking time off. They did. I know that they were involved in, their home. If I remember correctly, I want to say they did lose their home in the fire. And so Taya has wrestled some, but he hasn't. So, but it may be because of that. Maybe that's why he's been off. I had actually forgotten about that until I just said it. But so I think it is what it is. If it brings in new fans or extra viewers, then good for them. That's the whole point. I mean, that's why we have Travis Scott involved in the main event of the Elimination Chamber. So Kenny says that R-Truth turned heel on John Cena several years ago, and they had a pay-per-view match at the Great American Bash, or the Great American Bash, some of Truth's best. You know what? I feel like that apparently I had buried that deep in my brain because I feel like I remember that heel turn. I feel like that seems familiar and worth seeking out and watching. Well, yes, now it is, because I feel like
that sounds fun.
I had forgotten.
I don't think I saw that. That was out of my.
I'm pretty sure that I did, and it happened so long ago. Kenny says Travis Scott is the new Dennis Rodman. Yeah,
we were just having that conversation.
So. Yeah, I saw a picture. Somebody posted a picture of Hollywood Hogan with Dennis Rodman, and I was like, okay, maybe that's where they're going with the Travis Scott John Cena thing. Is that's kind of they're getting their like another Hollywood connection in there.
It's always worked for them for branding and marketing, though. I mean, when they started doing that, you can't say it hasn't worked. I mean, the thing's worth billions of dollars. So
and then you even go back to WrestleMania back when they had Cyndi Lauper get involved with Captain Lou Albano, and Captain Lou was her dad. And their girls just want to have fun video. And so they had that crossover then. It's been something they've always done. So it's not like it's new. They just play into it a lot now, especially with Netflix. And now their thing is because Endeavor owns PBR, which is Professional Bull Riding, not PBR, the beer, but the Professional Bull Riding. They've been having the professional bull riders come in to be on their show. And they're doing this thing. I can't remember the dates off the top of my head, but it's Endeavor is having a takeover weekend. I think it's in Kansas City, I want to say. And it's one night is professional bull riding. The next night is MMA, and the next night is WWE. And I was like, how many fans are in that niche where they are somebody who is a fan of bull riding, MMA, and wrestling, and to the point where they would go to another state to attend all 3 shows. I mean, I'm sure there is at least one person who fits that demographic, but I was like, that seems like wrestling's already a niche. MMA is a niche, and bull riding is certainly a niche. And so putting all 3 of those niches together in one weekend is really interesting to me. And I was like, I mean, I'm sure that there are some people out there they're like,
there's plenty of people
I'm
going
to go this weekend.
I feel confident that will sell very well.
I'm sure that it will.
With a certain demographic. I know that it exists.
Yeah. Oh, it's got to. But it's so funny because I was just like, it's so interesting. But yeah, so they it seems like every other week there's literally a bull rider in the crowd. I'm like, all right, cool.
All these and like obscure sports that are making their way onto television every time. And then I know that ESPN actually did it once, but every time I hear these sports, I always think ESPN ate the Ocho. Like every time. These are all like, and I know a few years back or every year ESPN was doing a thing where one day out of the year they turned ESPN into ESPN 8 the Ocho. It was like ESPN 2.
Right.
And then, but now it's like, I have a friend who's got a son who is a professional cornhole player. He's got
well, that's like the
he's got sponsors, he's got he makes money on the tour. It's real now. I'm like, this is a bargain.
Right. Well, and that's like people made Quidditch into a league, and like they play professionally and play for money and things like that. So I mean, it
started out with kids camps. I remember when I was doing camps for soccer, we were sharing field space with a Harry Potter Quidditch camp thing for kids, and I was like, whoa, this is wild.
They did a tournament in South Carolina, and like I think it was like Fort Mill, which is like right over the state line, and like a few years ago before it really started taking off, they were like one of the first few like leagues or whatever to have like Quidditch, and it like blew up into this thing. So
there's something for everything
has a market for everything.
Like even I know that because just from like dealing with I've had a bunch is like Magic the Gathering is the card game like those I'm like it's like there's like world tournaments like chess, online chess, just so much. We've monetized everything at this point.
Right. Yes, definitely.
Put a sponsor on it, slap some freaking, put a McDonald's in there, and you're ready to go.
There you go. And so Fernando says that last night's women's chamber was the best chamber ever so far. I heard some really good things about it. Kenny agrees with that. Maria says last night's elimination chamber was up and down the greatest chamber in the history of the elimination chamber. USBA guys weighing in on the Costco guys. Says the problem with social media influencers don't bring in new fans into wrestling. You may get a temporary uptick in your numbers, but that's about it. That's fair. That's fair.
It's true. You don't really
I get reaching into different markets, and maybe it helps, and maybe you would want it to be something more long term. And I'm sure maybe there have been a couple people that I have stuck around, but I feel like probably not as many as you would hope. So yeah, but I tend to agree with that.
Well, the idea is like you're going to put on a match like that and bring over fans, but then 98% of the rest of your wrestling is nothing like that.
Right.
And so once those fans come over and realize that you don't do that kind of gimmicky match a lot, and that's like a featured thing that you're doing for this, of course they're going to fall away. They have no interest in technical wrestling. They don't want to see Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay wrestle for a third time, which is, I'm sorry for them, but it's just the way it is sometimes.
Yeah. Jermaine says that he remembers when R-Truth Hill turn and him being with the Miz beating the crap out of John Cena and smoking a cigarette.
Oh,
I do remember
that. A real. The Miz smoked a cigarette. Oh my god,
Jermaine. Hell yeah, that's the one. had somehow buried that deep within myself. I don't remember. I don't know how I forgot about that.
I have to check that out now. Put that on my list.
I do remember when TNA was on ESPN. I remember when TNA was on TNN, the old Tennessee Nashville the Nashville network that was like all country programming, and then TNA was there.
That's where I watched it back in the day when we finally.
I used to watch it on TNN, and I do remember it used to be all over the place.
I think TBS had ECW where I was, because I used to that was at the point I was saying this to my friend the other day. One of the reasons I watched a bunch of ECW was because it was the point at which my parents had stopped caring if I was staying up and watching TV.
Right.
And that was on really late, and my mother would always give me the "don't watch that, it's fake." As opposed to all the other fiction I was consuming on a daily basis.
Right.
Well, okay. Just not that. You can watch Die Hard all you want to. All the explosions and guns and maiming that you want, but not that fake wrestling. That's a bridge too far. So I used to, but then it pushed me, because obviously when your parents tell you no, it makes you want to. But then I found ECW and they weren't caring anymore, because I was like a teen, early teen, I think. That's where, because Taz was my jam. That's who I remember most.
Right.
So when Taz joined the team at AEW, I was so over the moon, because he was one of the wrestlers that I liked from way the F back. So
yeah.
Oh my God.
He said, Kenny says that Truth lit the cig ringside in front of little kids.
Oh.
I remember that.
Whoa, that's such a heel move.
Jermaine says that what's going on with the Vendetta? Deanna left and went home after her match. Before they were teasing a new member, and now I don't know what's going on. I think they're still teasing a new member. I do. Some people seem to think that they are that maybe what they're because Deanna tweeted the other day and said, "Is it someone or something?" Because she keeps saying we're missing something. Some people kind of think maybe that means tag team titles. I am still very against the women having tag team titles until we book the women better on a regular basis. We need a women's main event. I feel like we're already getting one match a night on Dynamite most weeks. So then all they're going to do is just rotate it out. And so I get the idea. There's pros and cons. Obviously, would give more women something to do. But WWE, watching how they book their women's tag team titles, is how I feel it's going to happen. And tag team wrestling, as we've talked about a lot of times, is not a priority for most wrestling promotions that exist. And they already struggle. I mean, obviously they're doing better with the Hurt Syndicate, but prior to that, they were already struggling with the men's tag team division. They can barely book the women's division as it is.
Well, I mean, we get one or two
titles. I don't think is for me. I'm still against it for those.
Yeah, I'm not. I agree with Venk, and I think it's too soon. I don't think they're ready, because they haven't gotten. They're just getting to a place where their women's roster is as deep as their men's roster, and they need to continue with that. Now you can look around the women's division and go, wow, we have as many of these good wrestling women as we do wrestling men. So we need to do that. And the Toni Storm, Mariah May thing has been a huge boon for that division, because it's led to other storylines being able to make television time. We have right now on the pay-per-view, there are 2 women's matches.
Right.
So that are made.
Right.
Hopefully it will be on the main card. I know obviously Toni and Mariah will, but hopefully Serena and Aminata will be on the main card.
Yeah, because they're talking. So Serena challenged Aminata to the first ever women's pure match last night, which would be great. I'm glad that they're getting to do it. So it'll be interesting where they put that. That is to me as a pay-per-view worthy match, but
it should be. They had her beat Julia Hart to build for the match. You should probably put that on the main card.
Yeah. And I'm so glad, because I was surprised. Last night when I was doing the rundown, when I was writing my preview for Collision, I was like, we just did Julia and Queen Aminata last week, and it was a really good match. But I was surprised that they did it so fast, and I was like, hopefully that means Aminata is getting the win, and she did. But obviously, it's to set up that she's
to build
ready
that
for pure, which I appreciate. But I love Julia Hart, but Queen Aminata is incredible, and she needs more wins. Just like Deonna needs more wins. I don't know what's going on there and why they're having her and Taya keep losing these matches. I mean, Taya's picked up a couple of wins like in ROH, but she's not even wrestling there frequently anymore, or currently, obviously, probably because of the personal stuff. But I need Deonna to start picking up some wins. This is a woman who was a champion, a multi-time champion, and has main evented pay-per-views. Tony Khan.
What's that mean? I don't know what that is.
So last night when I'll get to yes, Deonna does deserve better. Lauren does not want tag team titles. Ooh, an international title for women. That would be fun.
That's a great idea.
I would much rather have that.
That's way better because that's a fighting that you could put that on someone like Serena to start off with, or maybe bring Athena up and have her take that, or that'd be great.
And because they have the crossover with CMLL and with Stardom, that title would be, and that's somebody that that's a belt that you could have, because like we talked about it, like way back when the International Championship first was implemented, Pac was going to the UK and wrestling people. He was defending that title, and they were putting matches. I mean, they were putting it on Dark, but they were doing that with that, and I'd kind of like to see that go back to being something that they do with the International Championship. And I think maybe that's the plan, because I know we're not going to get into much of Revolution because next week is going to be our pre-show. But I mean, I'm convinced, like, as soon as they announce the series, like, Kenny Omega's winning that title.
He's got to.
He's winning the title. I think Takesha's going off to do more stuff with Japan in Japan with both DDT and New Japan. I expect him to be in the G1 again this year. And I think that's why they're taking the title off of him. But Kenny is somebody, I mean,
perfect.
Obviously, depending on his health and all of that. But before that, Kenny is somebody who was traveling to other promotions. He was going down to CMLL, and because he was the AAA mega champion for a little bit. Yep. But when he was belt collector Kenny. So personally, I would like to see something like that. And I would like to see
that's a great way
that gets defended in other promotions in other countries. That would be really cool.
I think it's a great way for him to get what a lot of people want, which is a belt on Kenny Omega. And they want to see him wrestle. Well, this is perfect, because he can wrestle whoever he wants to in this case now, and he can just help guys get better, and he can I mean, that's a Forbidden Door. You got Wrestle Dynasty. You've got all of those like international shows that they're doing. And you could do a lot with that.
Right. And they keep bringing in CMLL wrestlers in ROH. I mean, obviously part of it is to bring in a different fan base depending on where they're at. Because they were doing it in Texas and they were doing it in California. But I also, Lyric pointed out, because they've had Gabe Kidd, they had Clark Connors last night. She was pointing out that she kind of likes that they are introducing other wrestlers that way before Forbidden Door. And if they do Wrestle Dynasty again, people aren't saying who. They know these people because they've seen them. And they're kind of being introduced to them more. So I thought, Lyric made a really good point with that. And Lauren said, why did they run Queen Aminata and Julia 2 weeks in a row? They did do a post-match angle with Brody. They set up Brody and Okada, which they have not, at least I haven't seen as of last night, they had not officially announced for Revolution, but they set that up. But I think the match, they did that to set up Queen Aminata to answer, because Serena Deeb challenged her when Aminata was coming down to the ring, she challenged her to the first ever women's pure match. And so I think that's why they ran it back so fast. It's a little weird that I don't know why they didn't just have Aminata win last week, but it's sometimes women's booking is a mystery in this company. So that's my guess. I don't know has Sky been cleared? I haven't heard. I mean, maybe she has. I just missed it. I haven't heard that she's been cleared. But they set up this week's news. So they used that moment to set up, I guess, Brody, and Okada. Yes, I agree. Women's division needs to get better established if we're going to do that. Toni needs to retain. I think Toni's going to be a transitional champion. I think she's going to drop it to somebody else probably within a couple months. That's just my theory. But I think Toni retains. I think so. They are doing a Hollywood ending match, and the promo, if you've not, I mean, it's a timeless Toni promo, so of course it's exceptional. And last night was no different. Great. She was talking about how, so she's in bed with a neck brace on, talking about how if she wants this title, she has to pry it off her cold, dead waist. Her soul, she's leaving at home. If that's what you want, but the spotlight, she will give you your Hollywood. If you in Tinseltown, your Hollywood ending. And she said, like, she said, what was it? Disqualifications. I don't need them. She said, rope breaks, piss off. And then she was like, bars will not be held. And basically it boils down to they are doing a Falls Count Anywhere match. Nice. And I told Nikki, I said, what's the stipulation where the women main event? What's that match called? What is there a stipulation for women main event?
I think that's all in.
That's the stipulation. I don't think it is. Not if they're doing Omega Okada 5. There's no way.
You're right.
There's absolutely no way.
It might be the sub-main,
even if they do a double main event.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
the women will not close it. Okada and Kenny will close it.
You're right.
That's the match that people have been waiting for a really long time.
Yeah,
I don't see
I'm
that.
I'm people.
I am people too. So I don't. So because it was apparently Wrestling Observer said that Mox and Cope were closing Revolution. However, I don't know that was confirmed or if that is their assumption. I don't know if Dave is like, well, Jon Moxley's the world champion. He's closing. Well, Toni is the women's world champion. Why couldn't she close it? I know we talked about how they just did this at Grand Slam. Grand Slam was not a pay-per-view. It doesn't count. So hopefully we'll get some clarification. And then if not, there's a media call next week.
That would be a fun Hollywood ending. I mean, for real.
Well, and that's what LaRon and I were actually talking about it the other night. And I said what had given me a small sense of hope was because Mariah said, I want a Hollywood ending. Well, there's no better Hollywood ending for a 16-month storyline than to have the main event at pay-per-view and to be the first women to main event. And of course you could have it be Mercedes, but they could have done that already. They could have done it they could do it with Athena, but unless All In is Athena Mercedes 2, that Athena and Mercedes are not main eventing All In if they're doing Omega Okada 5 there. There's no way that's happening. I know how this is going. And so this is the show to do it. I know All In, we said that too, and we've made this case, but like, this is your story you've been telling for 16 months. This is the story you've personally helped book and write. Then put it in the main event on a pay-per-view. We're in year 6. If you can't main event a pay-per-view with this story, then what woman's story are you main eventing with? And yes, you should. I agree that Mercedes and Athena should main event a pay-per-view, but if their first pay-per-view is that show, they are not main eventing over Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada. I know that's not happening. So now is the time, which I know, again, I say that every time, but now it's the time. And Ryan made a comment the other night that said that he thinks the only way that women are going to main event an AEW pay-per-view is if there are no men on the card.
Yeah. Yikes.
And that's how it feels. And so
they're calling it a Hollywood ending. It almost like sells itself. Maybe they should. And then you get everyone off your ass for a while. And I mean, let's be real. Like, you get everyone off your ass about it for a little bit, and you can build your All In pay-per-view with your Kenny Omega and your Kazuchika Okada main event, and everybody's happy for a little while, exactly. At least. Well,
yes, and there has been a ton of backlash. People saw that Wrestling Observer comment, and they were like, why is Tony and Mariah not closing? And like Collins is a friend of mine. She was like, I am Cope's biggest fan. And even I know that match should not be main eventing. And on top of that, Nikki and I were talking about this yesterday. Not only should that match, why would you main event with a match where most people don't like the Death Rider story as it is? Why would you close with that? Unless I'm sure there's going to be some big angle. I really do not think that we'll talk about it more next week. I don't see Mox losing the title next week. But even if he was, Cope does not have to close the show by winning the title. That could be the penultimate match. You could have Cope win. You can have him beat Jon Moxley, do whatever your little post match is, and then have the women's match. Like it would be fine. You don't.
Well, and if Mox is going to retain, you could even if Mox is going to retain, then you definitely should probably put the women at the end.
Right. Exactly. That's how I feel about it.
When you say ending, that's sort of what right. Like these two women have created this story and they've leaned into it and they've done an amazing job. Reward them with it.
Right. Exactly. And especially if you're going to, it feels like they're pausing the story. They're doing like Hangman and Swerve and separating them for a bit.
Which is great because you need that
Right. And like we talked about last week, because I think it was Lyric who pointed it out, we need to see Mariah by herself away from Tony. Who is Mariah May when Tony is not in her shadow, or when she's not in Tony's shadow, and vice versa? Like,
well, look how awesome Hangman is right now. Now that storyline has kind of wrapped up. It's not as if those two aren't like that blood feud will resume, I'm sure. And it can, or it doesn't have to. But he's like, angry millennial cowboy is the best version of Hangman.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see
even
Hangman.
Even in the portion of him coming back into being a babyface, he's not going to be the babyface he was in 2020 because of what he has done. He set a man's house on fire. He drank another man's blood.
I think this is the Hangman. This is the world champion Hangman that we were wanting back then.
Right.
It was too soon. This Hangman is like, he's just begging for the title at this point.
Right. But then you also have last night, Swerve beat, last night you had Swerve beat Clark Connors in a really great match. And he says into the camera, this is the start of me getting back into the title picture. And it starts with Ricochet. And he said, and I am coming for that title, and I'm coming back for our story, meaning him and Nana, because Nana went off on him about how, like, you need to be focused. You need to be who you were. I need that robe back. Like, that robe means something to me. And Swerve kind of last night was like, well, we're going to reclaim all that. So now you have Swerve and Hangman on these parallel paths again, trying to get to the same spot. So you can keep Tony, and once Tony finally drops the title, you can have her and Mariah away from the title picture, because as great as the story has been, it's been nearly 16 months. This women's title has been either with Tony or Mariah. It's time to get that belt away from them, especially when you have Jamie Hayter, you have Athena, you've got Willow, you've got Chris Statlander, you've got all these incredible women that could be in your title picture. And so you have to, keep them away from each other for a while, and then they can be on these parallel paths just like Hangman and Swerve are. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Yes, Hangman is the future. And I did see your comment about how, yes, one time WWE did have an all-women's pay-per-view, but that's probably not going to happen again, because it doesn't seem like the women are going to be headlining WrestleMania anytime soon either. It's the same issue. Jermaine says that I think Mercedes versus Momo will steal the show, and Mercedes will be retaining that title. Just my opinion, because she has an HOG show and a Rev Pro show coming up, plus more New Japan show. Yeah, I agree. I think she's holding on to it, but I think it'll be a really good match. I think we will see more of Momo in AEW. Maybe it's just at Forbidden Door, but she's somebody I could see them bringing in and doing more stuff with.
3 women's matches potentially.
They could, they could, if they do, depending on where they put Aminata and Serena. Yes. Yeah. Yes, they did. Nikki and I were talking about that yesterday. Hangman and Swerve got the main event. And so Fernando says Bianca and Rhea should main event night 1. I think they should. Also, we talked about this last week. It used to be that the winner of both the Women's Royal Rumble and the Men's Royal Rumble got to headline WrestleMania. And I think I was mistaken because I didn't see the comment and I missed it. It was the last 2 women to main event were actually Bianca and Mercedes. And at WrestleMania 37, they were the last 2 women, not WrestleMania 36 or 35 like we had said. It was actually that Mercedes and Bianca who did that. There are some more comments about Revolution, and I guess we'll get into it for a second, but I don't want to. That's what next week's show's about. And
we definitely are going to be spending all of next show on Revolution because it's our pre-show, so we don't want to too much.
I have some thoughts about that too, because I kind of thought that's where it was going as well, Fernando. But then somebody made some points that made me reconsider. But I kind of thought that too, because it seemed like it. No, Lauren, thank you for mentioning that, because I have meant to bring this up like 3 times now, and then our conversations taken us off track. So Lauren, thank you again for your very generous donation. We are almost halfway to our goal. We are at $45. Our base goal is 100. Clearly, if we get more, then
get the next level of perks.
So, if you are wondering what Lauren is talking about, we are accepting super chat. I mean, we accept them all the time, and we're just very bad at promoting them. But this time, we have a very specific reason that we are accepting the super chats, is because we were given the opportunity by Wrestling Winedown to be a sponsor at their event over WrestleMania weekend. They are having a networking event for women in wrestling. Unfortunately, it is not open to the public. It is by invite only. However, we were invited to be a sponsor, which would be huge for us because it is geared towards women in wrestling. And it's during WrestleMania weekend, which you can't get much bigger than that. Yeah. And then, so what your super chats would go to is the sponsorship, and we will gain exposure through logo placement on event materials and promotional assets, shout outs on social media. They're doing a special YouTube recap video that highlights the weekend, so we would get a shout out in that. Depending on which tier we subscribe to, or not subscribe to, but purchase, we could be also included in the recap video that will be shared throughout the wrestling community. So it's a really huge opportunity for us. We've mentioned it before. We're friends with Wrestling Winedown. We're friends with Lo. Lo's been on our show before. We have both purchased products from her, and we both have similar goals and similar missions as far as not promoting women, but just like elevating women in the wrestling space is where I was trying to go with that. And so your donations, whether it's $1, anything, any amount would be helpful. And again, Lauren was super kind, gave us a great donation. We've had some other people in the chat who've given us donations over the last few weeks. And so right now we are sitting at $45. Our base goal is 100. If we go higher than that, then we would hope to get to the next goal. I believe the goal after the $100 benchmark is 250, I believe. But
I think it's 250 is the highest.
We are on a deadline though. March 17th is our deadline. Right. That's when we have to have funds in for Lo, because obviously WrestleMania is towards the end of April, so we have to get that. Lauren, my God, Lauren, you are so kind.
You're too nice.
Thank you so much.
That's so sweet.
Try not to cry in the club.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Lauren, thank you.
Lauren,
so hopefully this gets you to your initial goal. I'll challenge everyone that sees this to chip in $5.
Aw, thank you, Lauren.
Lauren, that truly means so much to us.
That's so nice.
Thank you.
You guys are the best. We have the best.
And we said this last week. If you cannot donate to us, we know how this economy is.
That's why we rarely ask. That's one of the things,
Even if you can't donate, if you donate $1, that's great. If you can't even do that, that's fine. We totally get it. We appreciate your support, whether you provide monetary, tips or not. We appreciate you truly so much.
We appreciate you being here and up liking and subscribing and retweeting and all of the things that help get our information around. And
yeah. And
I mean,
even when people are being even when people are being jerks in the chat, it pushes our algorithm up, which is why I let it stay.
You know, it's
so
been a couple days since it's been a couple days since I've been accused of being woke, so it was just time.
Oh no, I get accused of that all the time, but you're not going to come in here. Fine. You're not going to come in here and be rude to our guest. Especially, I mean, I know he wouldn't know that that's a frequent guest, but regardless, even if he was not a frequent guest, you're not going to come in and be rude to our.
You just don't get to. We've had this conversation a million times. You're welcome in our chat as long as you're doing it in good faith.
Yes,
that's all.
And if you're over here just saying things like if he had just left it at just I can't believe he said that, fine, pushes up our algorithm. But then when you start name calling,
right.
Even if listen, I know Mark is. Well, for some people, Mark is a derogatory term. Sometimes it is not. But regardless, you're not going to come in here and name call. That's just
dumb. It's just the way that's presented that is not how we do things in this space.
No.
So,
Fernando said, whose idea was it for the Power Bombshells? It was actually Mel's idea because I had a different name. It was, and I only remember half of it. It was a play on Guy Fieri's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and it was like. It was related. It was wrestling related, but it was just a little wordy. And then all of a sudden, Mel was like, so Mel and I are like, me, Mel, and Garrett are all just kind of like kicking around ideas. And then Mel was like, what about Power Bombshells? And I was like, oh my God.
We literally ran to the internet to make sure nobody else had it. We were like, Sam and I were capturing it all over social media. It was like, nobody has it.
Yeah, we were like, Mel's like, nobody has this. She was like, there's nobody on Twitter, nobody on Instagram, nobody on YouTube's Power Bombshells. So we just went and grabbed before we even launched, we grabbed all the apps for Power Bombshells so that nobody could take it.
Thank you. It
is a great.
Sometimes I have a knack for things, and that's one of the things. I'm pretty good.
I'm so glad because it fits perfectly. I love it. And then somebody on Twitter last year changed it. It wasn't their app, but they changed their display name, and it was Power Bombshell or something like that. No,
nice try.
That is gimmick infringement, but
gimmick infringement. Yeah, unfortunately, we can't because we don't monetize. Obviously, we're not like a copyright. We're not in a space where we like. It's super expensive, and it's good Lord, it's like a small novel to apply for them.
Right.
But, I mean, so because of what we are, we just exist, and we hope that people aren't jerks and don't steal our stuff. And my favorite thing was that because at the time Brace for Impact was still on our network, and Mike Gilbert was like, you guys are now like in the running for best name on our channel. And I was like, yes. Because Brace for Impact is an excellent name.
It is. Brace for Impact is a great, especially when you consider what they were having to watch at the time.
Seriously.
At the time. And then we have this incredible logo that Mel's friend created for us that I love.
At Obey Cube with a K.
Obey Cube, yes. Also saying things at Obey Cube. And so, and our logo fits us perfectly. One day, maybe we will have merch. Or maybe one day, people will have a sign instead of saying listen to Wrestle Talk like on their wrestling show, it'll say listen to Power Bombshells or listen to Fight Game Media. Maybe one day we'll make it to a sign on a wrestling show. But in the meantime, we at least now get to do a sponsorship Wrestlemania weekend. Which we thank you again, LaRon, and to people who have already, on the cause. Maria asks, how did you find each other and decide to do a podcast together? We are both involved in Fight Game Media. I was doing some writing for the website at the time. And when I first started, Garrett mentioned to me, hey, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? And I was like, no, I don't want to. I did want to be on camera. So I was like, no, I've not thought about doing a podcast. And writing is my thing. I've always been good at it. I have a degree in it. I was going to stick to writing. And I was like, I mean, maybe I'd be interested, but it's not anything I had planned. And then he approached me a few months later and was like, hey, I'm thinking about, he's like, I'd like to have a podcast with two women, just because I think there needs to be more women's voices in wrestling. I want to introduce you to somebody. I think you guys would be a good fit. And then I guess, Mel, you can tell your side of how how he approached you or how you got involved in Fight Game Media.
I mean, I've been talking to Garrett when I got back into, because I went to, in the late 90s, I was into it and all the way through the aughts, and then kind of fell away from wrestling. I had my fall away time. But when we visited our friend in Ireland, he was like, want to go to a wrestling show, which was a very, very early, if not one of the first OTT show. And we went to a wrestling show in a freestanding tent in Wexford, County Wexford there. And I remembered how much I liked indie wrestling. And so I started, like, John obviously got me, he was happy to facilitate another wrestling fan becoming a full-blown wrestling fan.
Right.
So, he just it was one of those things. One day he told me, he said, you knew you liked it, you just didn't know there were other versions of it. And I think that's what happened around 2016 to 2018. And then I started reading The Observer, and, we live in a world today where you can interact with people on social and have good faith conversations. And so I chatted with Garrett and I chatted with Jim Valley, and we were talking to each other for a long time. And Garrett at one point was like, I'm looking to work with new people if you're interested. And I was like, what's the worst that can happen? And I've been podcasting since 2012. I was on a general chat show for quite some time.
Yeah. So, and I had guested on podcasts here and there. Like, I have a friend, Doug, who was actually on one of our early episodes, talking about his experience as a wheelchair user at wrestling shows and, the difficulties that come with that. And so, Doug had a podcast about our local promotion at the time. And I had done guest stuff there and I think I'd guested on like a couple other podcasts, but that was really, my experience was really limited before we got started. And so thankfully,
we had like the right set of skills for each other. Like you had what we needed, and I had because I had been using StreamYard with my previous show, which was a show about mental illness, and I really enjoyed the show itself because we were exposing lots of things and helping people with mental illness during COVID. But that was sold to me as being meant for something that was going to be a mutual aid associated thing, and that's not ultimately what those people decided to do. And I named that show too. It's called Baggage Claim. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Nikki.
You beautiful lady, you.
Thank you. And yes, I appreciate the S in the chat.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Nikki.
S in the chat. I love you so much.
That is a reference to if you back in the day, Nikki and I used to watch the Sammy Guevara blog, and they had the vlog crew, which was him, Aaron Solo, Alan Angels, and Fuego. And sometimes, why did I just blank on her name? I can see her. Kylan King. She was on there too. And Cody would be. That's where Fuego 2 came from, or Fuego Dos. And Cody used to be on there. And so Alan Angels would always tell people to drop S's in the chat. So Nikki and I still reference that. And so I appreciate that reference.
As an old school gamer, it's a sign, so-and-so has entered the chat is sort of one of these things that you pick up on. I was actually saying this to Bob yesterday. I was like, it'd be really, really hard if a society found, uncovered our work, our stuff that we were writing and things on digital, because they would have to learn our language, and then they'd have to learn all the initializations we use on the internet.
Right.
It don't make any sense at all. It'd be like, I'm pretty sure this LOL thing was some kind of happy response. Because I'm a dork about language. I'm like, oh my gosh, people are going to look back on this time, maybe if we don't blow ourselves up, and be like, what the hell all were these folks talking about?
The aliens are going to come when they come to.
What is ROLFTLMA? What is that?
Oh, language.
It's so fun. I love words.
But yeah, so that's how that is the story of Mel and I. So Garrett
is the as we said earlier, the podcast whisperer. Mm-hmm. The number of us on this network who didn't know each other personally or at all, who Garrett put together into shows, is really continue to, it gives me a good chuckle every time I'm listening to one of our shows from another show on the network. And they're like, well, I didn't even know you until 5 years ago when Garrett sat us down together.
And you're like, I believe Stephen and Jeremy have never met in person. No, because Mel and I have never met.
No, we've never met. The only people that managed to get some time together, to the best of my knowledge, that weren't us. I know Paul has hung out with about everyone.
Yeah.
James and Kevin got to meet for like 5 seconds, because that was when poor James had to take that drive from Hades up to Vegas from
right.
out in the big southwestern deserts.
Yeah.
And he managed to make like the end of that show for finally.
Yeah. And so,
but that one really blew my mind. That was one that when the boom was on, I never would have guessed that Kevin and James hadn't known each other their entire lives.
Yeah.
When I heard that it was the same as me and you.
Right.
And then Stephen and Jeremy have both talked about that. I'm like, see, I told you, Garrett is...
And then we're gonna have Mike Gilbert is actually Mike Gilbert used to have, he and JD used to have their show here, as Mel was mentioning, Brace for Impact used to be on our network. It's now on another network, but Mike is getting ready to move to my area because he's retired from the military and is starting a civilian job. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to figure out a way to have him come, like he's going to have to come crash the show or something like that. Or I'm going to crash him and JD's show, because I've been a guest on their show a few times. So I was like, we'll have to get them. So hopefully we can.
We cannot usually get them.
So it'll be alumni.
It's mostly because Mike lives like in the middle of the ocean for literally.
Mike currently lives in Hawaii.
So he's like 5 south. He's like the furthest away time wise. And like, it's so funny too, because JD and I are only an hour. Like it's because he's. And I forget about Central Time all the time. But it's like, oh yeah, it's an hour later where you are, even though I can drive to your house.
Yes. Oh, Nikki corrected me. Oh, she is right. Yeah, it was A's in the chat for Alan Angels, and Sammy said drop them so he'd know that they were where they were coming from. And Nikki said, I just say S since you're so yes, it was A's in the chat. I forgot. Because we say S's in the chat so much that
she personalized it for our show because that's the kind of people that
PBS in the chat.
PBS.
Daza says, I want to meet you too, JD and Mike Gilbert. Well, thank you. We would like to meet you too. And I also would like to meet JD and Mike Gilbert. And so Mike Gilbert, that's the goal this year. Maybe we can get him to come.
Once we get him on the continent now that he's on the continent, he can't escape us.
Fernando said, what was the wrestling match or moment that made you ladies the wrestling fans that you are today? Oh, wow. That's a really good question, because Mel, do you want to take this first?
All right. So initially for the WWE stuff, which was as many North Americans, our introduction is WWE, because we're pretty sure it's the only thing. In the 90s, though, I was the right age for WCW versus WWE. I was in college. All of that Onion article about like 90s kids found still playing their N64, watching Monday Night Wars, pounding. What was it back then? It was not Monster. It was like Power something, whatever. Powerade and Stacker 2 and all the whole thing. That was me. I was playing, James, we would play GoldenEye, and then like we put on wrestling. One of the kids in my dorm, they subscribed to cable outside of the college dorms just so that we could watch wrestling in the dorms together. So initially it was like, it was huge. And then I came home for a while and I had a good friend who was into WWE, and that was right about the time The Rock came to the picture. Mm-hmm. So I remember at some point I was like, it was Triple H actually is one of the people that I was doing something else, because I would just go to his house because he would have people over on Monday nights, back when you socialized that way, instead of watching together on your phone, we would do it in his living room. I'm that old. And so I remember, because I was kind of like half paying attention, and I was like, God, I hate that guy. And they all looked at me at the same time, and it was like, she's in. And that was kind of, I mean, I fell away, but my friend brought me back to, and I mean, then I discovered, like, when they were showing New Japan on Access, Minoru Suzuki was the first person I went, who is this guy? Like, and then after that, it was all the Okada and Omega matches that I had to go back and watch. And by the time they had their last match, their Falls Count Anywhere, no disqualification, no time limit, final match, I had subscribed to New Japan to watch that live by then.
Yeah.
So I didn't get the one before that, but their last match that they had, I was a subscriber by then. I had watched that G1. I had, that was about the time. So whatever year that was where they, because I went to
I think you and I started watching New Japan kind of around the same time period. Yeah, because so I started obviously being a kid in the South and having TBS. I was my dad would watch it some, and so I remember Big Boss Man and stuff and kind of watching it. But then I really got into it. I think it was 13. My cousin lived with our grandparents, and I would go over there. And one summer, even though we live in the same city, I only lived 15 minutes away, but I spent the entire summer with my cousin and my grandparents. And so my cousin was watching WCW, and she was like, we don't watch WWE. She was like, it's WCW/NWO. We were super into that. We would, and it was back at the time when TBS would repeat it. It would air until 11 o'clock, and then it would repeat at 1 a.m. And so it was the summertime. So we would go, my grandparents had, my cousin had, of course, had a TV in her room, but they had a tiny little TV on the refrigerator. So we would go into the kitchen and we would get snacks, and one of us would sit on the washing machine and the other one would sit on the counter, and we'd watch it again and eat snacks at 1 o'clock in the morning.
That's amazing.
So that's really what restarted it. So I was I loved Wolfpack. I was a huge Wolfpack fan, obviously Sting. I will admit I was a huge Goldberg fan. I didn't know for a long time that the streak was not as legitimate as they portrayed it.
That's the fun of it, though. I mean, I remember
I thought the streak was real. I thought he was just at house shows winning matches, and that's where he was picking up his wins. I thought that streak was legit for a really long time. I don't even remember how I found out that it wasn't legit. I've tried to remember how did I even come across the information to find out hey, that actually was not a real streak? I don't know. I don't even remember how that happened. And so I didn't watch, I refused to watch WWE for a long time because it was very much WCW. The Monday Night Wars, we were WCW and at my grandparents' house. And so then eventually I started watching WWE. It was after Owen Hart passed. It was so I missed all of that. And so then what really kept me hooked was tag team wrestling. It was the Hardy Boys.
Yeah,
they were from here. It was Edge and Christian. Was huge fan. That's when they were doing ladder matches at the Wrestlemania. That's what really got me into it. And then it got to the point where it was just that's what we did on Monday nights. We watched wrestling. And so
we were back into it. We went to WrestleMania 19 in Seattle, and that was in 2004. That was a period that was really hot for tag wrestling and stuff.
And so it got to the point where it was always on. If we prior to DVRs, if we weren't going to be home, we would record it and go back and watch it. That's how into it my sister and I were. We were so into it that we used to have the TV on channel 99 where the screens would be scrambled, so you couldn't see anything, but we used to
listen to the pay-per-view.
Yeah, we used to listen to the pay-per-views. Nikki and I used to listen to pay-per-views. My dad would come in the room. He's like, "What are y'all doing?" Listen to the pay-per-view and
scrambled porn and scrambled pay-per-views.
He would just shake his head and just leave. He was like, "All right, well." These nerds are in here. And then every once in a while the screen would be clear enough and you'd see a referee's hand come down or something, or you'd see
he's at least they're not watching scrambled porn.
Right. And then I got into indie wrestling because of all things, Nikki and I went to see, Mick Foley was doing a comedy show, and all the proceeds were going to Hurricane Helms, because that's when Hurricane Helms was in that really bad motorcycle accident and he nearly died. And so they turned it into a fundraiser show, and it was like, Adam Copeland was there when he was still Edge. It was him, Gunner from TNA. That's a whole other story. And it was him, and so there were other wrestlers there, and so we did meet and greets with them, but there were local wrestlers there who were passing out flyers for a local promotion, and it was Jake Manning, who now he still wrestles, but he now runs merch for AEW. And it was the Revolt. It was Caleb Conley and Zane Riley. And that's how, and you may know Caleb Conley from being, he was Caleb with a K in TNA for a little bit. He also was Suicide for a little bit as well. And so he was in the Cult of Lee with Trevor Lee for a bit too. And so that's how they gave us a flyer, and I think we couldn't go to one of the shows. And then we were like, then they ended up being nearby. So we went, and that's how we saw Cedric Alexander for the first time. We saw him at our local promotion, paid $5 to see him. Yes, Jake was playing $5 wrestling. Nikki and I went to a $5 wrestling show a few years ago, and Jake was on commentary, and Colt Cabana was as well. And Joey Janela wrestled. Why did I just blank his name? I'm sure Nikki can tell me. It's Hart was his last name, and he was so. Nikki and I still reference it all the time, because instead of saying personal vendetta, he would say personal bandana, and so Nikki and I always talk about personal bandanas. Jeff Hart, that's his name. I don't know why I blanked on it. And I reference that all the time. There's been a few times I've referenced him because Joey Janela will be like, who do you think is gonna? Yes, thank you, Jeff. Jeff Hart. Yes, I don't know. I can see his face, and my mind went blank. But Joey Janela, every once in a while, who do you think is coming to clusterfuck? Or who's
you got that, like, I mean, you're in Charlotte. You got that hot wrestling scene. If you want indie wrestling around your territory, I mean, it's true here in Detroit too. But
yeah, in
the Northeast, it's better now, but it was harder to come by unless you were going to really underground stuff.
He is from Winnipeg, and he drinks Canada Dry. Or Canadian Mist, maybe that's what it was. But
oh my gosh.
So every once in a while, Joey will ask, and I'll quote tweet it and say Jeff Hart. And he'll like it because he knows what I'm talking about, or I'll make a reference to a personal band. And then Nikki and I talk about personal bandanas all the time. Like we have a personal bandana with somebody. $5 wrestling is so much fun. Oh God, Nikki and I were front row, and that match ended up, they had a table in that match that would not break, and it was just no selling the shit out of Joey and Jeff. It was so bad, but it was also really funny. Like that match, that was one of those.
Like, wow, the table just stole the show.
That was, yes, Raider Rock. That was like, and Freight Train was on that show. Like there was that was one of the most fun shows that Nikki and I have ever been to. Yeah, I bet Canada did get their money's worth last night.
There's so much room in the world for all the different kinds.
Yeah.
That's why I like some of that silly stuff. That's why I like Talking Shop-A-Mania is one of my favorite things. Oh yeah,
Talking Shop-A-Mania is a blast.
Those are like fun. It's just silly. It's silly fun with wrestling. It's like, and look, you can do it all different ways.
Yeah, and then indie wrestling is what brought me to New Japan, because I was hearing a lot about stuff, and then I was hearing about Kenny Omega, I was hearing about the Bullet Club, and like, because when I started, I think it was right around the time, I want to say AJ had already left. I think he was already in, or we saw, Nikki might remember, I think we were like at the tail end of it, and so like I used to use, for a few months, I used my friend's login to watch it, and then eventually, I think in 2018, I went ahead and just subscribed myself, and that has been the longest running subscription I've ever had. I've never canceled it once.
Not even during the pandemic.
Not even during the pandemic. I've always kept New Japan. If I like, there were times where we were like watching all the Road 2 shows. Now I don't get to watch them as much because I'm covering WWE again, and so it kind of cuts into messed up. And then I was at All In. I was lucky enough to get tickets, and my sister and I went. We met with some friends there, and like after being at All In, that like there was no way I was not going to watch AEW. And so then
yeah, and we went to Madison Square Garden for the ROH crossover show, and that was when we were supposed to get Kenny and Okada, but Kenny had decided to go with his friends, the Bucks, and so I always blame Tony Khan for stealing that match for me, even though I love him for what he did.
Even though the match was never announced. It probably was.
I know it wasn't.
But it probably was going to happen.
I call it the match that was promised because I joke about it.
Yes, it most likely would have happened.
I mean, I really
they can get away with saying it was never announced, but it was implied that it was happening. Like
it was very heavily implied. So. But that's okay because in the end we got AEW out of the deal, and I mean, it looks like we may finally be seeing that match one way or another. I would love to be in person for it because I feel like you stole it from me. But Nikki and I are trying our hardest to make that happen this year. I have some other things to deal with first, but hopefully we'll see if the stars align. Maybe we will make it there. Nikki said also we did see hot spots at our old high school because Nikki's old teacher wrestled there. That's right. Nikki did have a teacher who wrestled for a little bit. It was the first time we saw Jake and Caleb, and then we discovered it again later at the McFoley thing. Yeah, because so Jake and Caleb were always doing things around the area. Once you start to figure out like what you like, I think that again, it was when he introduced me to like, hey, there's this whole other world about like. I remember when he had me watch, if you go onto YouTube, there is like the final UWFI, which is shoot wrestling. So it's shoot style pay-per-view, a closed circuit pay-per-view. It's hilarious. It's so fun. It's like, I mean, if you like old school dorky stuff, like, and he had me watch it. It was the last closed circuit purchasable UWFI event in North America. And there's some great people like Sakuraba's on it and all kinds of like just fun. I mean, you would recognize the names of the people. It's all escaping me, of course, at this moment. But I remember because we were doing a thing and I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun. And then he's like, okay, you ready for the thing? He's like, right, they call it shoot. He's like, but it's still a work. And I'm just like, hardcore. So it's like, you know, if we ever get the opportunity to go to Japan, that's like one of the things that it's like, I'm definitely seeing a death match in Japan. Because how can you not, if you're somebody like me, it's
right. Yeah.
I genuinely enjoy, like, that's for me with Moxley sometimes just straight. He, like when he gets bloodied up and stuff, it's like, yeah, him and Onita would be bros like forever. So it's like, I love it. I'm glad that it's back in my life because it came back just in a time when I really, really needed something fun and distractive to focus on. That like wrestling is something that's, in the end of the day, it's like, it's always I can go to it. I can go read the book, or like Jim Valley kindly hooked me up with some books from Portland Wrestling. And I have like a whole encyclopedia I have the Encyclopedia of Portland Wrestling, which over the last little while, I've found myself actually using it because of some of the people who've been passing away and all these other things. Right. I'm like nerding out. Like, so it's something that it's a healthy distraction. And I know a lot of people, just like with everything, they take things way too seriously. For me, it's like, no, it's like sports. It's like fun. We can get on and we can good fun jab at each other and make fun of each other's picks if we want to without name calling and being a jerk, but also enjoy it. And it's a really great community. Like, and Fight Game Media specifically. I mean, such a great group here.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm so glad that I have found this group.
Yes. Osaka especially.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Yes.
That's where all the
I really want to go. Wrestle Kingdom is obviously very high on my list, but I just like, while I'm there, I want to go see I'd love to go see shows and like there and like Ryogoku, Osaka Joe Hall. Obviously, I mean,
Osaka's where all the hippies are. That's where Asuka's from. So that's why she's like, her like funness and stuff apparently has like, it's a prefectural cultural thing. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's
very cool.
It's like their West. It's kind of like their California, and they're like just, I mean, that's kind of the best. I mean, obviously the cultures are dissimilar, but similar all the same. So
yeah,
it's very cool. He's like, that's why I want to go. I'm with you.
I mean, I also like Nikki and I have talked about it because Nikki really wants to go to like Disney there. And
oh yeah.
I was like, I would like to make like a whole, and like, I mean, of course, just there's different times of the year, but then there's also like the Japanese cherry blossoms. Like that's obviously a huge thing over there too. But,
yeah,
like,
Jim puts over Disney Sea so much. He's like, that
yeah,
is the best
there's
one.
actually a girl. There's a girl I follow on Instagram who is currently in Japan, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool, but like, she's not a wrestling fan, so it's weird. Like, there's no wrestling. I'm like, where's your wrestling content? But of course, she wouldn't have it. But there's like other cool. Obviously, it's a really cool. And she went to Disney Sea, and she was putting it over and was like, this is by far like the best Disney. And she was like, everything is so detailed, and she was explaining about Duffy, about that character, and just like how popular Duffy is there. And there's actually apparently like he's so popular that people are limited to how much of their stuff of Duffy's stuff that you can purchase, because, or at least, I don't know if it's like she didn't go into details. So I don't know if it's like at one time or like, I don't know, but she was just talking about,
yeah,
like, she's
like
he's
many
almost more
probably.
popular in Japan. He's almost more popular than Mickey Mouse.
Plus it's got that Nintendo section, which I cannot resist. It's got like,
yeah. And I'm not a Pokemon fan, but I know that there's like a huge Pokemon,
but there's supposed to be like a Mario section, which is, I mean, Mario is my OG jam right there.
Right.
I mean, Mario and Tetris are like my two. Like the amount of hours I've put into those two games over the decades is probably they didn't clock your hours on video games then. Nowadays, I can kind of see how many pointless hours I put into Zelda.
I mean,
actually, they're not pointless,
but also like you're using your skills, you're using your motor skills, you're using your.
And I don't do it too much. I like ebb and flow. So
yeah.
I go between, like lately I've been back into Katamari just because I like the puzzle and I like rolling I like rolling up everything I see. And it's just fun. So
yeah.
But yeah, that would be a great
that's my dream. Like, I still want to do WrestleMania just as a wrestling fan, but I would more like for WrestleMania, I'm more interested in the independent shows that happen around it.
Me too.
That's what I'm into. I'm way more into independent wrestling, and that's the type of stuff. And a lot of the companies that I like are involved. And like the one thing, I'm so glad that Speedball's coming to AEW, but now I also don't get to watch Speedball kill himself by having 15 matches in a 4-day period.
Weekend. He's gonna cut like 10 hours off your wrestling watch.
I know. I was like, we already knew he was coming, but I got so hyped watching that little tiny promo for him that they had. But then a fan made a hype video for him, and they did it to Pink Pony Club by Chapel Roan. And it was just perfect, like the way they had it match up. I retweeted it, and a couple people were like, "Thank you for showing me this. This was so cool." And like, I texted it to some friends. I sent it to a couple of Slacks. I've watched, and then people would comment, and so I just ended up watching again. I ended up watching that thing like 4 times.
That's so awesome.
So excited. I love the song anyway, and the video is just really well done, and so I'm so excited to see him. Whenever he gets here, I assume, because I don't know how I didn't think of it before, but I assume the face of the Revolution ladder match most likely it will be where he debuts. But wherever he debuts, I'm excited. But yes, he is cutting, and I will have like 10 hours cut off of my WrestleMania weekend time. But yes, but where I was going with all of that was, even though like I do want to go as a wrestling fan, yes, I do want to go to WrestleMania, but Wrestle Kingdom has trumped that's higher on my bucket list. And like, if I had to choose between the two, it would be Wrestle Kingdom.
Oh yeah,
easily. Nikki cannot wait for Speedball either. We are big Speedball fans in this house. So but I guess speaking of New Japan, well, I guess we'll back it up real quick before we do the New Japan bracket. We touched on a little bit with Mercedes and Athena, and somebody was mentioning it in the comments that they're finally, so LeBron had mentioned it a few weeks ago, and I think we talked about it too, was when do they start the build for Mercedes and Athena. And my guess was Double or Nothing. And Laurent was like, no, I think they should do it sooner. And apparently Tony Khan agreed with him.
Yeah,
because last week we had a segment where Mercedes is talking to Billy. She pretends not to know who she is, and she's being rude to her. And then Momo comes up behind her, hits her with a bat, and then so Mercedes gets on Twitter and tells Athena, she's like, you need to come get your lap dog because she needs some training, and because she spilled tea on her rather. And then she's like, so then that's kind of what started. They've already had a few things, they kind of tweeted at each other here and there since All In was announced, and they were at All In at the announcement together. Athena posted that video where she's like, oh, look how pretty she is. And you think she's talking about Mercedes, and then she keeps zooming in, and she's zooming in on the title. And that's what she's looking at. So they've already planted tiny little seeds, but now they planted some bigger seeds with that. And they've been going back and forth on Twitter, and Athena's basically like, nobody can talk to Billy that way except me. She's my minion. But I'm allowed to speak to her that way. And then last night there was another run-in. Billy and Mercedes were backstage last night, and Billy had, because Momo had taken the TBS championship, and so Billy had it in her hand, and Mercedes snatched it from her, and she said, Momo has a message for you. She says, you can hold it for now, but next week at Revolution, she's going to take it from you. And she was like, oh, and I fetched you some tea. And then she splashes the tea in Mercedes' face. Mercedes calls her a bitch, and then Mercedes and Athena are going at it again on Twitter last night. And so the seeds are starting to really be planted. I'm very excited for where this is going, and this is what we've been waiting for.
It's true. And it's funny because when it started, I was like, wait a minute. And I saw Billy and I was like, oh. And BJ actually reached out and he's like, so what do you think about the outcome? So we've been actually chatting about what do you think about the outcome? And it's like, again, we'll get into it a little bit more, but as it goes along, but it's like, the biggest thing is that these two have wrestled each other many, many times. They were part of the new generation of women's stars that started that four horsewomen type of stuff. And so Sasha Banks and Ember Moon wrestled each other all the time. And those were great matches. So that's going to be a really fun match for both of them. And I think it could go either way. I am a bottom line person. And because they paid Mercedes what they paid her, my inclination is that it will be her win. But you got the home field advantage thing, so it's hard to say.
I personally
like the uncertainty.
I love Mercedes. Athena is who I would belt. I would do it in her home state. I would put the TBS championship on her. I think you need somebody who is powerful to dethrone somebody of Mercedes' stature. It is something that could go either way, and obviously we'll watch this play out over the next few months, and so maybe I will change my mind in between. Right. I love Mercedes, so if Mercedes retains, I will not have a problem with it.
Well,
but
nobody
I feel she, as somebody of her stature, needs to be toppled by somebody on her level. And I think Athena is that person. I think Athena is on her level. I think that Mercedes is on Athena's level, because I feel like Athena, as much as, and we've talked about this a lot of it is because she is kept on ROH, but I think Athena is extremely underrated, even being someone who's undefeated in singles matches. In ROH sanctioned matches, I should say.
It's so funny though, because if you talk to people though, even not ROH watchers, and this is the thing, is everybody knows who Athena is.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are like, why isn't Athena on the regular TV?
Well, and see, Mercedes did that today. She was like, well, because she told her, she's like, will you hide down there in ROH? Why don't you come up here? And why don't you come up
Tony
here?
hides you behind that paywall. So
right. She's like, why don't you come up here and get on my
people get
level?
to see you wrestle.
Right. And so my initial reaction when I saw it was that they were going to do Billy versus Mercedes first.
Mm-hmm.
And which I still think they could do.
Yeah.
Probably not on a pay-per-view. Probably just a Dynamite, which is fine. It doesn't have to be a pay-per-view match. But I feel like that's going to be kind of the thing, is that that. And obviously they've started the sniping at each other but I feel like Mercedes is I think Mercedes versus Athena, Billy will happen, and I hope it happens because it'll be a good match. And then Billy, that picture was going around. Billy is was a huge Sasha Banks fan. There's the picture of her when she met her when she was like 10 years old. And they had like, obviously the picture of them, then Mansoor from MXM, he quote tweeted, he said, if any of you dorks take a picture of me and then try to post it if you become a wrestler and then try to use it on TV later, I can't remember, like he's like, I don't remember what it was, but he was like, please don't ever do it was great. But yeah, so I'm glad that Billy got that moment. I hope that Billy does get a match with her because I think that'll be really good. And obviously Athena tends to, at some of Billy's matches, Athena comes out there with her. So I would assume that, she would be in her corner if Mercedes, if Mercedes does wrestle Billy, that, Athena will be in her corner. But I'm hoping this means, especially because she specifically called her out and said, will you keep hiding behind ROH? I'm hoping that means we're going to get Athena on AEW television sooner rather than later. And that it's going to be not like a one-off or, she'll be there to build this story off of social, obviously keep social media involved in it, but to also add the TV element to it as well, because Athena is somebody who should be on TV. Agreed. And Mercedes shouldn't be building feuds on the internet when she can build them on TV. Yes, Fernando says Athena versus Mercedes has the potential to be one of the best matches, biggest matches ever. I am right there with you. I want this match so badly. I've been, ever since it was teased, I have obsessed over having this match. I want it as much as I want Omega Okada 5. Omega Okada is still probably their first. The whole series is great, but their first match is still my favorite match of all time. And it really showed me what wrestling could be like outside of what I was used to always seeing. And I realized wrestling can be this and it can be this all the time. And I was like, this is what I love. And then, we've gotten the rematches and stuff like that. And I've seen them both tell different stories in different ways. And I'm huge fans of both of those guys. They're my two favorites, or two of my favorites, I should say. And so I want that match, but I really, really want Athena versus Mercedes too.
Yeah. That's a huge match. You're hard pressed to find a serious wrestling fan that doesn't want to see that match. I feel like right now, again, social media isn't life, but at the same time, the talk about it amongst all the different groups of people, no matter what their allegiances maybe or whatever is, there's a lot of people who want this match.
Yeah. And I thought somebody said it in the comments, and I've seen this comment before of are they going to combine the international and continental titles? And it seems like that could be where this is going.
I think so, yeah.
And I saw something earlier this week that there have been discussions about combining the two. And I think that's part of why they're probably going to belt Kenny. Okada, I assume, is holding the Continental Championship until All In. It'll be a title for title match. And then whoever wins it, they'll unify it following All In, is my theory.
That makes sense. That's essentially what New Japan did with their intercontinental.
That I wish had never happened.
I know. That's a whole.
I was completely against that, and I think
that's a whole other show.
I think yesterday was or sometime within the last few days, it was the 4-year anniversary of Ibushi doing that. Oh, don't do that. I've seen that theory too, Fernando, that Josh Alexander will join the Death Riders, but I have a different theory. But I'm going to save it for next week when we do the pre-show, because I have a theory of who I think might actually be the one joining them. But I have seen that theory of Josh Alexander, and it is not a bad theory, and we will discuss it more next week. But do we have the cup stuff or no?
Well, what I can do, I have my brackets.
Okay.
What I think I can do.
That's fine. That works too. And then I can fill it out on the website later.
Oh, do you have the website up?
No, I don't. But wait, when is the deadline to have that entered?
Here, that's what I was gonna say. I think that I might be able.
Me too. I had to put that picture of Willow getting her revenge and Marina getting her comeuppance. because it was about time that somebody stepped up to her. And I'm glad that it was Willow, and you can't get much more day one than Willow Nightingale. And so I'm glad that it was her, and kind of the story that they've been telling about, like, we want these younger people to step up. And people are like, oh, Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, Jay White, which, yes, but Willow is one of those people. Willow's name should absolutely be in that conversation. And my favorite part about that was they showed the Mox Spears Willow sign, and then 3 seconds later, here comes Willow with a chair, and Mox is losing his shit. I love it. I'm so happy for Willow. I like to see this version of Willow. I don't know that we'll ever get a heel Willow, but this, I like Angry Willow. I like this version of her. I like that she's tapped into it, and so I'm very excited for her.
I think this is gonna work.
Okay, we're trying to do, so we're jumping on the bandwagon of other podcasts, like a couple other Fight Game Media podcasts. I know Steven and Jeremy did it. Garrett and John LaRocca that did it?
Yes, they did theirs. Steven and Jeremy did theirs. A few other people have done them on Fightful, I believe.
Yeah, and I know the guys from Wrestle Sif, they are We Work Sif, they have, I believe they filled theirs out as well. So we're gonna jump on this band. And Mel has like, oh, I did mine. I have yet to do it. So we're gonna do it. I'm gonna fill out my bracket live on air.
I guess I'll do this here, and then I'll email you the results so you have a picture of yours too.
Thank you. So, I appreciate that. And then I will let me see if I can bring it.
Let me make sure that we have a good. I think that other one was a better. Yeah, that's way better.
Let me see if I can pull it up so that I can read it. So obviously,
where were we?
Mel and I, as you can tell from this conversation, are huge New Japan fans.
Yeah, right.
And we're excited for the New Japan Cup that's about to start. Also, speaking of New Japan, they finally announced that BOSJ starts May the 10th. That is 3 days after Cedric Alexander's 90 days is up. And I have been wanting Cedric in BOSJ. I am hoping that this happens. I want it to happen so badly. And somebody asked me, well, is his 90 days good? Will he be up in time? And they finally announced the start date this week. And so I am very excited about
I think I like the side by side best because it makes the brackets the biggest, and I can kind of like walk us through. So let's click here to enter. And for those of you who, if you go to the, it's the Sport of Pro Wrestling New Japan Cup 2025 Bracket Challenge.
Yes, and if you follow at the Chris Samsa, SAMSA, if you follow him on the Twitters, he also has a link to it there, and he has the bracket, which I'm looking at, and I will put his, I don't know.
I think I have it on here, but anyway, so we're going to click to enter. Here we go.
There's his Twitter if you want to follow him. And then
your name, we're going to put Sam. Shoot. All right. Your email. Oh, I don't want to share that with everyone. Hang on. Here, let's go to this real quick here. So that Mel can enter.
Do you want me to put it in the chat? Not the public chat, the private chat.
Yeah, real quick so I can copy paste it. That'd be great. So we're going to put Sam's thing in there. Then give your private details on the air because that's nothing that we need happening because of all the sillies.
I found out
we've already been accused of being woke. So
well, I found out some of the writers from Wrestling Inc. There is apparently a person that has been harassing some of them and has been emailing them.
There's been some crazy shit going on with some people.
And they screenshot, like, apparently one guy has been he's been emailing one of the writers for like months, but now he has moved into other wrestlers other writers that he's now harassing. So
wow, great.
Yeah.
It's good to see people branching out with their hatred. Gotta love that.
Yeah.
All right. So right here we have Yota Tsuji versus Evil in the Group 1 quarterfinal.
I'm gonna go with my favorite Yoda Suji.
Mr. Yoda Suji there, see? And just so everyone knows, I filled my brackets out like when you give your secretary or your admin assistant who doesn't know anything about basketball the March Madness brackets to fill out. I did it totally by, I like the color of his trunks, except I'm a little smarter. It's more like I love that guy. But also some of it I did obviously take into account Stephen and Jeremy's information.
That was the thing, and I told Nikki about this because I told her, I was like, I'm going to fill this out live on air. And I was like, I'm tempted to go listen to Stephen and Jeremy because they are very intelligent when it comes to New Japan, especially when it comes to this type of stuff. Like Jeremy won the G1 bracket like 2 years ago?
It
2
was
G1s
last year.
ago. And he beat like literally everybody.
He did. And it was scary.
And then I was like, do I go listen or do I just do this?
Do it yourself.
But see, because I want to do it because I did it for the G1 too, and then I had to fix it. I try to pick people I like. And sometimes I'm like, I know I need to go for a storyline reason. So USVA guy says evil will win. I hope not. And Nikki says, please no.
I don't want everything to be evil ever again.
No, I've had my fill of everything being evil.
You and Milano AT are about the only two people in the whole world that want that back. So, all right. Well, obviously, David Finlay versus Bai means that Finlay wins. Here we go. We got Yuya Uemura versus Sanada.
I want to go with Yuya, but Sanada also. Wait, are these? I can't remember. Is New Japan Cup like once they lose, they're out, right? Or no?
I think you get points in this one.
Or is this because this like the
this
G1
is a Group 1 quarterfinal, so you do get points because the people get buys.
No, so it's like
usually Sanada, their standard format is 2 for a win, 1 for a loss, 0 for
so this isn't
0 for a tie. Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't like Yuya loses and he's out of the tournament.
I don't believe so. I don't think this is a single elimination tournament.
Okay.
I can't remember, but I don't think any of their tournaments are single elimination.
I feel like Yuya should win this. However, I feel like Sanada needs to win it more than Yuya. So wait.
I'm not choosing.
You lose, you're out. Okay, see, that's what I thought.
Oh, okay. All right.
Look. Again, I stick with Yuya. I want it to be Yuya. I want Yuya to be back and have a really good year. But also, Sanada is struggling with who he is, with the fans. He's in Bullet Club now, right? Isn't that what he's doing?
Oh, that's right. They switched. That's right. Because they got rid of all the Just 5 Guys things and everybody reorganized. So like a bunch of LIJ. It's like LIJ versus Bullet Club now, basically.
I want Yuya, but I'm going to go with Sanada here.
All right. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, it's my final answer.
All right, Sanada. I know it hurts. It's all right. Let's get.
And I love Sanada. Sanada's struggling. Like, I've always been a fan of Sanada, but he needs to do something. But I also love Yuya a lot.
Oh, I'm with you. Believe me. And this Bai person keeps showing up, so I don't know what
they
their
must
deal
be very
is.
good. Oh, God.
Really, they don't have to do anything. Oh, God.
I knew this was coming up because I saw the bracket before. I can make arguments for both. Finlay's the former champion. Yuya's the current champion. I know this doesn't matter, and it still stresses me out.
I know.
Even though this means nothing. I mean, obviously, I'd like to win this tournament.
It's fun.
So,
it's fun.
It does have some things.
For me, it's a way to keep me attentive. Like, it's a way to keep me accountable to staying caught up with New Japan during the Cup, because I have something to like cross off a list.
Right.
Basically, it's just giving me extra motivation.
I'm going with Suji.
Yep. You got it. I like it. I like this pick. All right, we got Sanada versus Yoshihashi in Group 1 semifinals, because you had Sanada making it out of there, and obviously Yoshihashi fought that guy that doesn't have to do anything. So
It is Fernando says complicated but fun.
It's fun, and we're doing it for fun, and that's why we're doing it on here. And
yeah, I thought about it. I considered it. I'm sticking with my pick. I love Yoshihashi, but Bullet Club is Bullet Club.
This is gonna have shenanigans probably.
Yeah, I'm going with Sonata.
Sonata again.
Yeah,
shenanigans, almost certainly. Oh dear,
more shenanigans, but Yota Tsuji better be beating Sonata.
Now this to me seems like this one is a slam dunk based on your picks for me.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Go with Tsuji.
Are we Tsuji as your final answer then?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Bye, Sonata. Thank God. Ooh, this is a tough one.
We're going with Oiwa.
Yeah.
I know why Chase is here. I know he's here to eat pins. I cannot stand him. And I think Oiwa is gonna have a big year. Obviously, our boy Zach.
Well, Zach, fortunately, Bai doesn't have anything.
I need to see.
I think that literally Bai was like, I have to fight Zack Sabre Jr. Bai.
Yes. Zach apparently last night, Zach at GCW was supposed to wrestle Drew Parker, but Drew Parker got injured, and so he ended up against Fuego del Sol, and apparently they had a banger. Fuego went nearly 20 minutes with Zach, and I saw a video afterwards, and Zach was like kind of giving him the nod of approval. And so I really want to go back and watch that match. I've always been a fan of Fuego. I think he's super underrated, and since he's been on the indies, he's been tearing it up and it's really done him some good. So I really want to go back. I love
watching wrestlers take their real shot at something, and like
that's what because
like that kind of like that someone like that is like, I'm not going to get a chance to wrestle ZSJ very often.
Right.
You better believe I'm bringing everything to this freaking match because, dude, if I'm a wrestler and that happens, you better believe.
Yeah. I really want to go see that match. And then I believe tomorrow. I don't think it's tonight. I believe it's tomorrow night. He's wrestling Mance Warner, which I cannot wait to see because Zach is I'm a huge fan of Mance, a huge fan of Zach. They have two completely different styles, and I cannot wait to see. And Mance was a champion. He just dropped the GCW World Heavyweight or the Heavyweight Championship to Effie. And Effie said he was going to make, as champion, he was going to make Zach keep coming back so he could wrestle.
Let me
get back on track here.
I'm a little scared. I know you're really, I think we all know you're avoiding having to make a choice here.
I am. Yeah.
But it's inevitable. You got to do it.
Chase is here probably because he has something on somebody. Is the only thing I can think of. He's here to eat pins is what he's here for. I don't know how you go against Gabe Kidd here. All
right. That's your final answer, yeah?
Yeah, that's my final answer.
All right. Taichi versus Bai. Well, that Bai guy is a lucky sucker. He just gets
this match.
This is going to be if this is a matchup, this would be an amazing match.
I think that we are getting this match.
I hope so.
I would love to see Oiwa get the upset, but also you can't kick Zach out of the tournament when he just won it. I mean, you can, and I know what it would do for him to get kicked out of this tournament and for Oiwa to advance. And if he's going to get kicked out of this tournament, he probably would want it to be from one of his young lions that he has taken under his wing.
Oh, this will be amazing.
I would not be surprised to see Oiwa get the upset. However, because he just won this, he's been in multiple cups. I'm going with our guy Zach.
All right, ZSJ for the win on that one. And now, this would actually be a good match too. So, Group 2 semifinal predictions. We have in Sam's predictions. We have Gabe Kidd versus Taichi.
Let's go with it's hard to go against Gabe right now. I'm gonna have to go with Gabe.
War Dogs are really, I don't know. They're in a ooh.
Okay.
See what you did? Did you look what you're doing to yourself?
Who did this? Who?
This is why I like filling out mine, because I was like, why did I do this to myself?
I'm that gif of we're looking for the Tim Robbins in the not Tim Robbins. What is his name? It is Tim though, but not Tim Robbins. That's a completely different actor. But he's in the hot dog costume, and he's like, "We're all trying to find out who did this." This is me right now to myself.
Who did this to me? Oh, it's me.
It's hard to go against Gabe.
Yeah.
With the momentum he has, and him besting Zach would be huge for him. But I also don't like Gabe Kidd. And I love Zach. But depending on the story they're telling here, Zach has lost the title. He probably wants this cup. He wants to prove himself again. But Gabe is also coming off of that match with Kenny Omega, and he is.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go with my heart here, but also,
yeah, this was a tough one.
Me too. Oh God, this is so hard. I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm gonna go with my heart. I'm going with Zach.
All right.
Even though that might bust my whole bracket. Ooh. I do love the Greatest Okan, but I also love ELP.
ELP is on a run right now.
And yeah, ELP is on a roll.
Everyone loves him. He's one of the bigest foreign stars right now. It's amazing.
Yeah, I gotta
Gabe
go with
Kidd are like.
Yeah, I gotta go with ELP here.
All right, we're going with ELP. Oh, Shota Umino, lucky guy.
Oh,
Tetsuya Naito against Callum Newman. Are we knocking Naito out early in this tournament, or is he getting his redemption? Since this is probably his
love Naito so much, but between his vision and his knees, this man does not need to do a full tournament. And Callum, we do need some upsets in here. Callum Newman has a lot of upside. We got to get United Empire up in here. I mean, I know Great Okan, but I knocked him out already. So I'm gonna go with Callum here.
All right, Callum Newman it is. Oh, Jeff, you lucky. Bai is so lucky he's not fighting Jeff Cobb.
Yeah.
He's really, really glad. Yikes.
Again, two people that I love. And Shooter is trying to find himself. And he really has got to prove himself. Especially after that Wrestle Kingdom main event. And trying to figure out who he is. But ELP is ELP. And he's on a tear right now. And I don't see Shooter winning the cup. Not that I see ELP necessarily winning either. But Shooter has got to kind of be on this redemption tour. And winning the cup would be huge. Do I think he's going to win it? Most likely not, especially depending on who's in it. I'm going to go with ELP.
All right. Whew, quick like a Band-Aid.
Oh, God. Yeah, I knew as soon as I saw Jeff Cobb, I was like, oh, no, I've played myself once again. This is gonna be good. When I gotta go with Jeff Cobb.
Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb in Japan is.
I know.
Magic.
He is.
Oh my God! This is a rematch. Of one of my top matches of the year so far.
And Cobb got that one right because this is the one where he threw a dude at another dude. This is the match. Is this the match I'm thinking of?
I think you're right. And I don't have my notebook in here because I can't remember who won though. I think Phantasma won.
I feel like he did.
I think he did. Because I think this was one of his first ones back.
Yeah.
It was a banger.
It was a banger.
It was at the New Beginning show.
I'm gonna go with Cobb here.
Okay. Good call. I see that. Because you need him in the hey, look at this. We got some Ishii and Drilla Maloney.
Oh, it was a draw. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah, because yep. That's right.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go with Ishii here.
Okay. Cool. Because we don't want to lock him out. Oh, TJP gets a quick in there. Ooh.
Another person who's here to eat pins is Bad Luck Ballet. So I'm gonna go with Bolton Oleg. I mean, I would have went with him anyway. Oh God.
Yeah. But
oh God.
Shingo dodged Bai dodged a bullet again.
Yeah.
You don't want that fight, Bai.
Because they could do. I'm gonna go.
Young guy, old guy.
Ishii here. Yep.
All right. Oh, I'm losing my ears here because it's all caught on my thing here. There we go. Ishii, we go. Bolton Oleg versus Shingo Takagi will be an insane match. Holy crap!
If Oleg could get the upset here, that would be huge. And it is very hard for me to go against Shingo Takagi because I love that guy. Shingo is one of my favorite wrestlers. But Bolton winning and getting an upset over Shingo Takagi would be monumental. But
he's another one that's in that like bubble on that bubble where they're about to become the next new top guys.
But Shingo is also a guy who could win the cup.
He could win.
Shingo could win the cup, but we've got to have some up. I'm trying to decide: do I play it safe with Shingo? You know what? I'm going with Shingo.
Shingo.
Gonna go with Shingo.
Shingo. That's all right. Here we go, Mr. Dragon.
Oh God.
Oh God. We've probably seen this match before, but I don't care. Run it back every day.
Oh my God.
I could watch these two fight each other just for hours.
Same. Ishii, I love you so much. But I gotta go with Shingo.
Gotta go with that dragon, man.
I love them so much, both of them.
Ooh.
I played myself again. Okay, so if Zach gets past Oiwa, can he get past Tsuji? And Tsuji is obviously at a higher level in his career than Oiwa.
And they're on their way to really pushing him because he's getting there.
I'm gonna go with Tsuji.
Yeah, this would be a good in terms of like just talking about who knocks Zach out.
Yeah,
this is a good pick for that.
I'm going with that. I gotta go with Tsuji here.
All right.
Oh God.
You know what the funnest part about New Japan is like even fantasy booking it or doing this, you're like, yeah, I want to see that match. Like no match sucks. Even when they're right up.
I love you, Jeffrey Cobb, but I gotta go with Shingo here because I think I know what I just set myself up for. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Oh my God. Oh. This match is gonna, if we get this match, it's going to be a banger.
Wow. Yours is totally different than mine. It's so funny.
My bracket's probably totally different than a lot of people. I told you
I love it. I love it. It's making me, it's exciting.
My bracket's probably going to be busted way before we get here. But I'm going to go with Tsuji.
Nice.
It's probably way wrong.
I like it. All right. I'm
not?
Pressing the button. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Here we go. Thank you. You have been submitted.
Oh, Jesus.
Click the link below to view my prediction. Here we go.
Oh,
so
wow.
These are Sam's. Oh, that's God. Could they make
I don't
that
know what I just did to myself.
Let's see if we can blow this guy up a little bit in case you people can't see it. So,
oh my God.
hang on here. Let me pop us back up here while I fight this thing. See if I can.
I don't know what I just did.
Why is it doing that? Yes,
They just emailed me my predictions.
Okay, good. So it's showing me, but it keeps showing.
Oh God! So yeah, follow up.
Oh, I see what's happening. I see it. I see.
To see how crazy this is, and if
there we
go.
I might be able to. Is it showing it now? No, it's not. I am going to have to do that real quick. Wait, hang on. I will show everyone because I am really figuring this stuff out. I swear. There we go. There we go. I think it's this one. It is that one. Here we go. This is Sam's bracket, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm sure there are more out there brackets than mine, but obviously.
So she has a Yoda Tsuji championship. These are some great matches. I like this.
I have no idea what I I would love to see Tsuji win. However, he already has the title, and ELP, USVA guy pointed out that Finley might get his win back. And then if he does that, then my entire bracket is busted because that's way early on. So yes, Tsuji he's the global champion. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know what I've done to myself. I probably have blown my entire bracket in the first round. And if we have, I will talk about it online, and I will come talk about it on here.
And I'm gonna pop mine up here real quick because just to get.
Because Mel's is probably more accurate.
Oh, mine's silly, but it's fun to see the difference for absolutely sure.
Yeah, I'm sure Strong Style did have some interesting theories, and I almost went and listened to it.
Well, and they're fun. I mean, like I said, I wasn't
good at this stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't listening to them. It's just from the talk, because I'm in the Discord and stuff and I see them talking. That was why my brain went a little bit the way it went.
Yeah, so. And I know my picks are probably I'm gonna go listen to them and be like, that's what I should have done. Is this one of the things that once it's in, you can't change it?
Right? Like you'll have to click on it and check once you So
I mean, Daz, I feel like I kind of did that myself. That he said Daz said he wants to do it, but use a coin toss to choose the results. I feel like that's kind of what I did with some of these.
So for me, this is mine right here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Finley wins this.
I again, in listening to them and the conversations that were had here, let me pop mine up here so that I can actually look at it while you guys are looking at it here. But I had some good matchups here. I have a Finley Naito final.
Oh, interesting.
With Naito and Shingo fighting it out to get there, and Finley and Gabe having to a little bit of war dogs there.
Yours is probably more accurate.
Believe me, it broke my heart to make some of these picks, but I was like, all right, I'm gonna try and be realistic. And this, just because of where Naito is and what's going on and all of these things, it does seem like they're setting Finley up for something big.
I feel like Finley will be the one to dethrone Goto. I think that's where this eventually goes. Does he have to have the New Japan Cup to do it? No. But would it hurt? Also no. So I could see both things happening. And that's why I almost didn't knock him out where I did, because I feel like they do have big things for Finley. And I do think Finley dethrones. I think that's where they're going with this, is Finley dethrones Goto. But winning the cup would be huge. And I will not at all be surprised if that's where they go. And is this Vinkin, are you being serious? Did he really lay out his entire rope so that Finley loses to Evil? Wait, do you mean in the finals or just in general? Because that is insane.
Oh my gosh.
Do you mean like earlier in the tournament, or he wins the whole thing?
It makes me scared when he says stuff like that. I don't want to hear that out of his mouth. You shut your dirty mouth, Jeremy.
That would be he did, because of a promo that Evil cut when he came back. Because I was just about to say, like, Evil almost left, or not in kayfabe. He almost left.
Yeah.
And so I feel like they do have to put Evil in a situation where he is a bigger deal than he's been as of late. Do I see him winning the cup? No. But do I see him being further in the cup than I predicted? Probably. But I also feel like...
Oops. What just happened? Sorry about that, guys. I just accidentally hit the button. And by myself on here. So Sam will be right back. But I wasn't cutting her off. I didn't actually have any issues with her for saying what she was saying.
Sorry, I don't know what I pressed. I think I was trying to move my mouse over to pull up Vinkin's comment. I must have clicked.
Okay, I thought it was my fault because I clicked something at the same exact time.
I don't know if I clicked something. I don't know what happened. I do have to go shortly, but because I have...
Yep.
I'm conducting an interview for Daily DDT in 8 minutes.
Yeah, we need to get...
We thought, Mel and I were like, no, we'll be way out of here by 3:30. No, I played... once again, I have played myself. I played myself in this tournament. I played myself in this interview. I should have made it later.
That's all right.
But I was like, no, we'll be done by 3:30. No, I should have.
We didn't know that we were, in fairness, and this is not, we did not know that we were going to get the questions that we got and everything else. And we appreciate the fact that you guys.
And I also didn't know we were going to spend like 50 minutes on WWE.
Well, we didn't. Yeah, no, again,
which is fine, which is great. And again, that is not a complaint.
No, not at all. We want to make sure you guys, we'd rather talk to you about what you want to talk about. And most days, that's okay. But
I should have put a buffer.
Every once in a while,
I played
Sam
myself.
needs to get paid.
I played myself. But it is John Cena's fault. That damn that damn corporate John Cena.
It's all his fault.
But what I was gonna say is Vinkin has a theory, or I guess the theory maybe that Jeremy is putting forward that Evil is here to play spoiler. I can see that happening now. Daza is cashing in his briefcase just to join the show, but then I came back and ruined his plans.
You were that close.
USBA guy says that Yuya will be winning the tournament. Listen, I want to be wrong. I hope Yuya goes really far.
Me too. I want to be totally wrong.
I hope I'm wrong.
I want to be unequivocal that I filled that out under protest of my own self. Under existential protest. I too played myself.
I played this on a thank you. I played this on a whim, and probably also because we were trying to not really.
We're just broads filling out brackets. What do we know?
Yeah, clearly. I mean, I wasn't picking it up on Trunks. At least I did have some theories. And then some of it, yes, I know it was being biased and picking people that I like.
It's hard to not
happen.
pick.
That's what happened with the G1, and I had to keep going back and fixing it because I think I had Zach. I didn't realize it, and then by the time I got to the end, I had Zach undefeated. And I was like, I mean, if anybody is could go undefeated, sure, it's Zach. But I was like, he's not going undefeated. So then I had to go back and fix matches. And then I'm like, this person had too many points. And I was like, this is not. I was like, I tried to be more logical. And I tried to be a little bit more logical here, even though some of it I just went with my heart. And I was like, whatever.
I like it. And again, like I used to do, I Notebook usually used to draw these out. I love that Chris Samsa has come up with these and that he's been making them a thing. So part of supporting that is because this is fun and cool. And it's something that he does on his own. It's not like, to the best of my knowledge, this is not something that, at least when he started, maybe they're helping him out now, but it was something that he did because we all like it and it's fun. And I think it's fun that the podcasting community for pro wrestling who enjoy New Japan are getting together to do it, because I think I really appreciate not having to get like rulers and stuff out to build boxes and fill in thingies. And you get it all wrong and have to start all over again. This way I can just print it out and then cross out everything I get wrong. It's really great.
So this we'll
thank
see.
You, Chris. And
thank you, Chris, for this.
We did link him in the comments.
Thank you for everybody in the comments for humoring me and not laughing at me for these picks. And then we'll see how far I get kicked, how soon before my bracket is busted.
Right.
And then if Yoda Suji somehow wins it all, I'll be like, oh no, I was super confident that was gonna happen.
It would be hilarious.
For a minute.
It would be just hilarious if like you won. You were just like, you
Thank you.
were the like one who saw the writing on the wall, and all the rest of us were just dumb. Right. We need to get Sam out of here so she has time.
Yeah, I gotta go. I got 4 minutes. I thank you.
All right, kids. We
Thank you.
appreciate you. We appreciate LeBron. Thank you. Maria, yes. Nikki. I've got everyone's names written down. I will make sure we will shout you guys out over the weeks. Anybody else who wants to join in, again, super chats now till March 17th.
And they're actually available on the replay. If you watch the replay, the thank you button is still in effect. So you are able to do them during the replay. So if you are watching this on the replay and want to get involved, you don't have to do that live. I believe that function still works. So you're more than welcome to. Again, please do not feel obligated to. But if you saw LaRon's challenge and want to meet him with that challenge, that he challenged everybody, that's all that to donate $5. If you want to donate $1, if you can't donate at all, totally fine with us. We truly appreciate it. And we, real quick, I will say again, I will be on the wrap this Wednesday with Keela, and then actually on Thursday I will be co-hosting on a ramble with Collins on Thursday night. I'll post all the details for that. That's on a different. That's not on Fight Game Media. That's on a different channel that I will be doing. That was already pre-planned, and then the one with Keela happened last minute. But I'm super glad to be able to repay just a fraction of what she's done for us.
Absolutely.
So definitely. I'll be posting those to our social media as well. But I just wanted to get those out there real quick.
All right, everybody, have a great week. We will see you next Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on Powerbombshells here on Fight Game Network. And we will see you soon. Again, thanks, everybody.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate it.